Well, okay, not every song that says ADD is my anthem.
No, but this one is. This one is. My friend, we found it.
Welcome to Church Jams Now, the podcast where three former youth group kids and current music nerds deep dive into Christian music from the 90s and 2000s. I, of course, am your co-host, Kylan Savage. With me, as always, actually, before I introduce him, I have a question. Mr. TJ Smith, are you ready for this episode?
Man, I am. It's pretty overcast, and there's like a high of 68 here in Portland.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry about that. Actually, I'm not. That sounds amazing. We also have beautiful
right.
producer Josh. Are you ready for this episode?
I'm so excited that I'm just trying to maintain consciousness.
I'm so mad at y'all.
Oh, wait.
I'm ready for you to be the one that we're waiting for to give you the bit that you were waiting for because you were patient.
Kylan, are you excited? Are you excited,
hell
Kylan?
no. Not now. I set it up perfectly twice.
I was committed to my bit before you
I
began.
know you were, and I kind of anticipated that. I was like, well, at least Josh will save it.
And he didn't.
Did not.
Oh, man.
Here.
You may continue to be the one that I'm waiting for to decide to have a good attitude about Kylan.
I don't know. I don't know which to bury, us or the hatchet.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. Let it all out.
Our puns are pretty good. They're a little more than useless, I think. Barely. Ever
Here's
so
the deal,
slightly.
though. Who I am hates who you've been in this intro.
Hey, let it all out, Kylan. Let it all out. Let's clear the air. Just tell us how you feel.
So if you're a first time listener of the show because you're a Relient K fan and you realize that this album has a 20th anniversary and you're like, oh, this podcast covered it. This is about how it goes. Welcome.
About sums it up, yeah.
Get ready to rumble.
Yeah. So we are, of course, covering Mmhmm by American rock band Relient K, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary.
It is.
And I do have to say, before we get into it, I just have to say, yes, we have heard your comments. We have heard your feedback. We know that our episodes typically go incredibly long and we go off on crazy tangents. And so we're going to try to stay really focused, Josh.
That was Anonymous J.
That was
right.
pointed.
Anonymous J.
He or she was
saying
the
that our
one
episodes
making those comments.
are too long.
Kylan.
No, we're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it precise. Only the facts.
Yeah. We promise you not to indulge in any tangents or anything offsuit from this record.
No mangling.
You can count on us.
Well, the only thing worse than beating a dead horse is doing this bit. So
I thought you were going to say research, so I feel better about that. So thank you. That was your segue into research.
No. I feel like we should live in this space a little bit before we get right into research, right? Because this is a big record.
It is. We've been waiting
True.
For people that are unaware, Relient K, Two Lefts Don't Make a Right, was sort of the genesis of this show.
Yes.
And so...
Indeed it was.
And this is only I guess technically the third Relient K that we've covered.
Yeah, because we did the Christmas album, but I mean, this is only their second proper non-Christmas album.
Which is wild. 4 years into the show.
Maybe we need to do more.
And it's interesting now that we're going to have to go back to their earlier work and then zoom forward or vice versa.
Right.
That's going to be interesting.
Or this is the last Relient K that we ever cover.
Yeah, never again.
I'd be so mad.
The metrics have spoken, and the people just really aren't interested in
anatomy.
Relient K content, you know? Yeah.
No Relient K, no Switchfoot.
Probably it.
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
No one wants
People
any of
hate it.
that. They want more Larry Norman, which is why we're doing Norman November.
More Larry
Obscure
Norman.
stuff, the better.
Norm more years.
There you
More
go.
years.
So, yeah. How do you guys feel? covering this record. It's turning 20.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel great. I feel old, but I feel great.
Do too. I feel this one, even more than They're Only Chasing Safety, legitimately made me feel really old that this turns 20.
Yeah, because I wasn't listening to Chasing Safety when that record came out, but I was listening to this when it came out 20 long years ago. Or short years ago.
I don't know, it feels very long to me.
It does feel very long.
A long time ago.
So, why have we not covered this until now? Were we just waiting for the anniversary?
I think we were.
Josh was.
It was a big one. I was,
I would not have known that it was its 20th this year, to be honest. It would have come and gone, and I would have been like, hey, isn't Mmhmm's 15-year anniversary coming up soon? And y'all would have been like, hey, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Came and gone. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shall we bring up the fact that I haven't listened to this album in 20 years?
Yeah, I didn't know if
you were such a good boy, Kylan.
Thank you.
We're so proud of you. Come get some pets, buddy.
Applause. Thank you. I deserve it. I deserve an award.
It wasn't, you put yourself up to it.
I did. Because
it's true, yeah.
When we first started the show, because now the show's evolved a little bit, right? Like we're not doing the part A, take a break, and then part B. We're kind of, but we have our schedule, so we listen before we start. But when that was essentially the premise of the show, I told myself I'm not going to listen to this record until we cover it on the show. Little did I know it was going to be 4 years later.
Sorry about that.
But this is the only album really that I've wanted to listen to. And I had not until this week.
Yeah.
So much discipline.
I know.
The applause.
Good job.
Applause break right here.
I want to spend the whole episode hearing how it felt for you, all those songs, hearing them for the first time in years. Because when was the last time you'd listened to it?
2005.
Nah, I'm sure I probably threw it in my car in college at some point, but
maybe
potentially.
The last time I remember actively listening to it was 2006 because I have a story relating to it that I'll get to when we get to that song.
Ooh,
that's the last time I remember actively listening to it. What about you guys? Is this in regular rotation? It's a spoiler alert. It's a good album. Not to be controversial.
Surprise!
Coming out here with our hot takes and part A.
I mean, it's been a long time for me as well. Probably, I'm gonna say I didn't listen to this album once I got into college, or maybe once in college. No, I don't even think I did. So probably 2007.
Wow.
Yeah, probably. In completion, right? I think it's one of those that a lot of
actively put it on
the singles,
right?
and the bigger tracks would come on here
everywhere.
and there. Yeah. But actively listening.
You couldn't walk into a Christian coffee shop in 2009 without hearing "Oh My Escape."
God, yeah. No, it's true. Or Hive 75.
Yeah.
In the middle of winter. Yeah. So probably 07. I'm gonna say 07.
Wow.
And that's even being generous, I think.
Wow. Josh, what about you?
Well, I know I definitely, because I don't have it with me right now, but I have the vinyl pressing they did for the 10th anniversary in 2014. And so I was definitely listening to it then, I'm sure re-listening to it. And I'm sure I listened to it probably around the time that Air for Free came out. I probably went on a nice Relient K binge around then.
When was that?
2016.
Okay.
So I don't know if in the last 7-8 years I've listened to it that much. I've probably thrown it on maybe once or twice, but since it was active rotation, it's probably been 8+ years for me. We'll say on the safe side.
Whew.
Cool. So the most recent was 8 years ago between the three of us.
That's wild.
Yep. That's wild.
I do want to hear more about that. Can we do research and then get back?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, let's do research and then get more.
Yeah, because I want to. Let's get personal again after that. Do facts, and then we'll get personal.
Only facts. No more personal anecdotes.
No feelings.
Yep.
Only
feelings.
The extra stuff
don't belong here.
For sure.
Don't mangle them.
Okay. All right. May I begin my research?
If you must.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Teach us, Prof.
So we've covered Relient K on the show before, but of course, if I may remind you listeners out there, they're originally from Canton, Ohio. Their careers from 1998 to present-ish. They haven't done any music since the last EP came out in, 2017 or something like that, but they have been playing festivals a little bit more actively lately, which is good. Members for this record, we have, of course, Matt Thiessen on vocals, guitar, and piano, Matt Hoops on guitar, Dave Douglas on drums, and then Brian Pittman on bass, who does not appear in the band promos for this record, but he is credited with playing bass on this record. He's like, they got signed to their big major label, and he's like, this is a great time to leave the band, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're probably making a lot of money. I'm going to peace out of here.
Success.
Yeah.
There's always that
Brian
guy
was like, no,
leaves the party early.
Screw that.
Yeah, and then he starts a metal band on Solid
did.
State. He did. Yep.
Wait, he did? Wait, what? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Inhale, exhale.
Inhale, exhale. That is correct. And then he joined them for one record and was like, peace. So, I don't know.
One and done, you know?
He wanted to start his lawn care business, you know? That's his true dream. So, good for you, Brian. Good for you.
Way to go, Brian.
So, as Kylan has already mentioned, you said that it was released on November 2nd, 2004, right?
Yeah.
Did you cover that? Look at you covering. Look at your research. Got the dates and everything. This one was I've heard, I didn't experience this myself, but I heard this was like a midnight release that like stores opened up at midnight so people could like buy this CD when it came out.
I remember that.
Yeah. Which is crazy to think about, but kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so releasing in November, I did the math today. This released only 602 days, so effectively a year and a half after Two Lefts. So they did Two Lefts and they got signed to a major label and were like, they churned this out in a year and a half and boom. And it worked.
Yeah.
Dang.
This was their fourth LP. I guess if you don't count, what's it called? The All Work and No Play. Their fourth major labeled LP, we'll say. It was on a collab between Goatee and Capitals, released on both. Producer was trustee Mark Lee Townsend, friend of the show.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Matt Thiessen. It was mixed by Jared McNeely, with some tracks being mixed by Tom Lord Algie. And charts and performance. So it debuted on Billboard 200 at number 15.
Wow.
Yep. What's even more impressive for me, though, is that like it made the Billboard year-end charts at 159. So out of all the music in 2004, this was the 159th most popular release that year.
That's crazy.
Out of
That's
all
crazy.
music. Yeah.
Wow.
Is that the only Relient K to have done that?
I haven't looked at all the other ones. I would assume
be.
so. It would have to be. I mean, I don't think Five Score did.
I think everything on this record was like so zeitgeisty. I think there was a lot of
Perfect Time, Perfect Place.
crossover.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Which they didn't have on the other stuff before or after. Billboard Christian on number one, obviously. If you're going to hit 15 on Billboard 200, you're easily going to get Billboard Christian number one. The album is RIAA Gold, which is 500,000 units, and it does have 2 gold singles of Be My Escape and Who I Am, Who I Hate Who I've Been, Who I Am, Hate Who I've Been. And the runtime is 14 songs at 50 minutes and 35 seconds. And that is my research.
Woo! Good research, my man.
It's fun when you get like a big album to do some stuff like that on, you know?
I'm so excited to dig into it. So before we get into the album, track by track, what else should we do? Should we do our flop or bop verdicts?
Well, I want to hear about like how when you first heard this record and what you thought of it, at least back in the day, because we talked about on the show that y'all were big, obviously, on Two Lefts, and then this is the first record, aside from the Christmas record, that comes out after you're a fan, which I think is a big deal.
That's true.
Whenever you get to experience that as a fan. So I want to hear about what it was like for y'all hearing this record for when it came out and what it meant to you back then, and like maybe where you would have placed it. Was this the Relient K record for you? All that stuff.
I think this was my favorite record of 2004. In 2004.
Wow.
I mean, it like I said, it's been so long since I've listened to it, but not just every single song, and you guys know how my memory is, but like every single like individual moment throughout these songs, I just fully remembered. It was like going back to visit my childhood home or something.
And nothing's changed. Everything's like where it was when you were a kid.
Yeah. Which I imagine, because I didn't actually have a childhood home because we moved so much, but that's how I imagine that experience to be. Right. This was massive. I'm pretty sure, I wasn't allowed to stay up till midnight, so I didn't get the midnight release, but I'm pretty sure the day it came out, my mom drove me to Lifeway to go pick it up because she knew how important Relient K was to me, and I was so excited about it. Nice. And it's super weird because now I live back in Arkansas, and I have to take this specific exit off of the freeway to get to my house. And it's the same specific exit that I had to take to get to my house back in 2004. And I have a very distinct memory of one time in 2004 listening to this album in the car with my dad when High of 75 came on. And then I was driving and that happened. And High of 75 came on and I was like, this is real trippy and feels like time travel.
Super weird.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, like a Groundhog Day kind of moment.
Yeah. Was Two Left still the bigger record for you from Relient K? Or was this bigger?
I think this was bigger. I didn't sit with it as long as I did Two Lefts, but I think this made more of an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into that as we get more into the record. I'll kind of explain that a little more. But it did to me feel like it felt like Relient K was like growing up.
Yes.
At a time where I felt like I was growing up as well.
Absolutely. I kind of relate to you, Kylan. It was a big deal when it came out because it, like you said, Josh, it was not long after Two Lefts, and that was such a big moment as we've talked about at different points on the podcast. And I was really looking forward to it. Like there was a lot of anticipation and like excitement and energy built up around the release. I can't remember if I did the midnight release, but I know that I went to Family Christian Bookstore and got the CD almost the day it came out. Maybe I went to the midnight. I don't remember. Yeah, I think that for me it felt like you said, Kylan, like they were growing up. It felt like a more mature iteration of the band in a lot of ways, and like Matt's songwriting had kind of taken a leap in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, I remember like thinking after first listen that it was my feeling was it was a lot more pop and less punk. That was how I felt at that time. And that was an interesting direction for them to take, I guess, as a band. For me as a fan, I was like, I was in love with Relient K as this kind of scrappy pop punk band that leaned into the more kind of garagey side of things and were kind of goofy, right? Like their goofy side, but also still being super clever and having a high level of musicianship within those genres. Those were the things that I loved about Relient K. And so I think I remember being a little, not even let down, but just kind of like a little surprised of like, oh, this is a little more pop.
Right.
And just being like, I don't know if I like it as much as their other stuff. And at that point, I had been a fan since Anatomy, and I had even gone back and listened to the stuff before that. So I was very familiar with them as that kind of scrappy garage, like pop punk band. And so I think that was the paradigm that I had for them. And that's why as a poppier offering was a bit of a detour in a way that at the time I was kind of like, do I like this? Is it still what I have come to know as Relient K? I don't know. So I was a little like on the fence a little bit, but I was also quick to acknowledge like these songs are great. This album is great. And so it was still a big moment for me to answer your question, Josh. But I wouldn't say as big as Two Lefts.
Okay. So that was still the big record for you.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm a little older than y'all, so I feel like that's part of that.
So much older, more sophisticated.
So much older, so much wiser, you know. It really shows.
That was an admission of shame, if anything, Kylan. That wasn't me like than you guys. Trying to own y'all. I was older.
I just like more underground stuff because I was older. I didn't like that pop stuff. That's for kids.
Okay, fine.
Like you.
I'm just
who's
I'm
like a year and a half younger than me.
I'm nestling into my core hipster.
Yeah, identity, no, you're turning into a dad.
Join us.
I'm ancient, y'all. An old grumpy
Josh,
man.
what about you? I want to hear about you. When this record came out, where were you at?
I wasn't listening to it, actually. I didn't get this record until Christmas of that year of 2004. So I was a month and a half, almost 2 months late to it. And I think I was like aware that it came out. And I was like, I guess I was like 13, just barely 13 at this point. So like, it wasn't like following stuff as actively. So I think whenever my mom got it for me, I was like, oh yeah, they had that new record come out, I guess. Cool. So that's when I started listening to it. And it was funny because like you were talking about, I think both of y'all were talking about how you like that they were kind of growing up and getting a little bit more. And I didn't like that because I was like, I liked the funny, goofy Relient K songs.
Where's Pink Tux too?
Yeah, where's
exactly.
Silly Shoes?
Exactly.
Like that's so when I listened to this record, I was like, these songs are like kind of serious. Like it was like the light. Like I remember I liked Maintain Consciousness a lot. Like that was one of the first ones I liked because I was like, this is kind of silly-ish, you could say. Right. Like it's the closest, I guess, to what they were kind of doing before. So
that's literally my only note on that song. So
sorry,
spoil that.
Yep, that'll be a fast one, I guess. So that was like it did take a little bit before I think I grew to appreciate this record. And maybe as I got older, I was like, oh, this is actually a really good record. And a pretty classic, of course, because it became a classic. So this has always been pretty close to the top for me. I think objectively, I would put this as their best record objectively. It's not my favorite Relient K record, but it's
we've talked about that a lot, though, of recognizing
the difference in the best and our favorites.
Yeah,
for sure. So I still think it's still one of my favorite Relient K records. But yeah,
sweet. Nice. All right. Well, I'm just assuming that we all would have predicted a bop.
I mean, you'd have to.
Right? All right.
No, that's the record we're talking about, TJ. Are you going to bop it or not?
Yeah. Okay, I need verbal clarification from you.
Same question.
Is this album a bop or a flop?
Guys, the only thing worse than beating a dead horse is betting on one. So it's safe to say it's a bop.
Continuing this bit. I'm going to use that joke now for the rest of the show.
The only thing worse is bopping one.
Yeah. Oh.
But not in this case, right?
But not in this case. It's not a dead horse.
Not in this case. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to get the party started with 2004's by Relient K.
Are you guys aware of the new, in quotes, Amberlynn record?
Yes.
You are?
Of course.
Of course you are.
I'm up to date.
You're aware of at least half of the record. I know for sure.
Right. No, I'm a darling of #CCM Twitter. Of course I'm up to date on what Amberlynn is doing.
You're a talking head in the CCM world now. Of course you know.
Maybe I should just say no. I'll just say no.
Cool.
That feels like an easier way to get into this.
Yeah, it lets me explain it a little bit more.
Yeah, tell me more, Josh.
Well, TJ, since you aren't aware, Amberlynn has a new new record in quotes that consists of their EPs that they've released the last 2 years, and then 2 new singles with Maddie Mullins. It's called Vega, and you can purchase the CD and or the vinyl from our sponsor, colliderecords.com.
Sweet.
And I know this for a fact because I've visited their website, but I took it a step further. I used my fingers.
Did you use those fingers, Josh?
I used them fingers, bro.
Oh, buddy.
I used my little digis, and I bought the CD from Collide Records, and it arrived just a couple days ago. And it's a rare but fun joy to buy a CD in 2024.
That's very true.
Yeah, and no better way to buy one than from Collide Records.
That's true.
I love it.
We're big physical media guys, so go buy the CD. Yeah, you could stream it, but why?
Yeah,
buy the CD.
It's better.
And you know what, Josh? Was there anything special that you did when you purchased that CD? You paid full price, right?
No, I didn't, Kylan.
Oh, you didn't? Why not?
Well, I used a promo code.
What?
I use our promo code, Church Jams Now.
Our promo code.
If you use our promo code, Church Jams Now, you can get 20% off any purchase.
20%? Wow.
20%.
So what you're saying is, if someone goes to colliderecords.com to purchase the new Anne Boleyn album on CD, and they go to checkout
or vinyl,
wow,
whoa,
and type in Church Jams Now, and type in Church Jams Now at checkout, they'll get 20% off.
That is true.
That's incredible. So go do that.
Amazing.
What are you doing listening to us? Go do that.
And I don't regret it. You should do it too.
Amen.
And I'm just here.
We do these ads where we talk about reviews that we have received. But man, oh man, okay, we received a review that I feel like as an organization and personally...
Let's be clear. I feel like it was more on a personal level.
No, as an organization, I am speaking for Church Jams Now as an entity. We felt we needed to address... So Josh,
I can agree with that part. Okay. I can agree that we do need to address it.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Celebrate it even.
Well,
yeah, sure.
All right.
Why not?
We will get there. Josh, would you be so kind as to read this review?
Yes, I will. We have a new review, and it's from JABLVA. Title
All right, we're already mangling facts.
Jabulva? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for that. I'm just so excited to get to the review. But the title of the review, it says fun listen, and it's 4 stars.
Okay.
The review goes, I love that this podcast exists. Don't agree with a lot of the opinions, but that makes it interesting too. However, ... To the host who hates bongos in quotes, please learn the difference between bongos, congas, and djembes. Not every skinned hand drum is a bongo. End rant. Thanks for making these.
Okay, listen. All right. Let's just listen.
Can I just say, I just want to say, I love that he starts with, I love that this podcast exists, and then closes with, thanks for making these.
Yes.
The perfect
okay, let's
TJ, on a personal level, for a moment, just wants to say thanks for those opening and closing lines.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Jabberwocky.
No, thank you for all of it.
I appreciate you.
Nope. Just shut it all down. The review
Kylan,
system is rigged.
You have the floor.
Can I have the soapbox, please?
Yeah, let me go grab it. Here you go, buddy.
As the host who hates quote-unquote bongos, we did talk about this actually recently on the Kevin Max episode, correct? Mm-hmm. I did go off on a similar rant. For all listeners of Church Jams Now, I would like to apologize for my flippant language regarding bongos and other hand skin drums. Of course, as someone who started out playing in a church band on bongos, congas, a djembe, etc.
Cajon, perhaps?
A cajon, yes. I do understand the difference between multiple hand percussion instruments. That being said, sometimes with language, right? Like a lot of times we get really nitty gritty on this show, right? Like we get pretty specific about guitar tones and production techniques and things like that. So I want to apologize for the shortcut that I have taken in simply using the term bongos as a layman's term, as a term that I thought everyone understood could be a stand-in for hand percussion. And I'm incredibly sorry for the hurt that I have caused anyone by thinking that I do not have the ability to distinguish between different types of hand drums. I, of course, know the difference between bongos and congas.
And djembes.
And djembes.
They mentioned, yes. Okay.
Kylan, is now a good time for me to admit that was my review that I left under a different username?
Oh, well, I quit.
Thank you for your apology.
Makes so much sense.
Bye, I'm done. That's it. End of our friendship.
Oh, no, not
and
again.
If you want your review to be read on the show and for Kylan to have a redactionary statement, leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Welcome back to Church Jams Now. I hope you enjoyed those ads as much as we enjoyed making them. We are here, of course, to talk about 2004's Mmhmm by Relient K. Before we go track by track, do we have any general thoughts? Anything else we want to bring up? Do we want to talk about the album art really quick?
Of course. It's so good.
K.
There it is.
It is.
It's iconic.
Oh, Josh has it.
It's so good.
I don't know that I fully grasped it until this listen through, to be honest.
Can you explain it?
Yeah.
For,
what did
for
you
the
grasp?
people that don't? I mean, I know,
Well,
obviously. But
yeah, you
people
know,
that are listening,
obviously.
As
as
an art critic, I obviously know too. But tell the other people.
Yeah. And
Well,
as
my read on it has everything to do with track 3, and we can talk about it then. But basically, the flower that's kind of bursting into life, and then the other flowers that are wilting. Being a little bit of a metaphor for taking the good with the bad and trying to embrace life to its fullest in spite of what the world may throw at you. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Is it also coincidence that this is their 4th record and there are 3 dead petals?
Yeah, guys, we all knew that.
One is
It's like
blooming.
super obvious.
I mean,
but thanks for explaining it to the listeners.
Yeah, just explaining for the layman out there.
Right.
Yeah.
For the jammers out there that don't think critically about how album art can potentially pertain to themes within a record. You know who you are.
Definitely not me.
No, not me for sure, because we've been doing this for what
Season
volume is
pros.
this? For
111.
11. Let's get right into it with track number 1. I hope this is the one you guys are waiting for, because it's track 1, the one I'm waiting for.
Well, do we want to talk about the pre-gap track?
There's a pre-gap. No, I don't. I guess I didn't know there was a pre-gap track. Why did you bring that up? Why did you make me sound like a fool by just?
There's a pre-gap track here, Kylan.
Wow. Explain what that is to jammers that no, I know what a pre-gap track is.
Well, this one's fun because this one actually has it on the back of the CD as track 0, and I never knew. I was like, what? What does that mean? Like, because it wasn't until college that I was like, oh, that's what a pre-gap is, and that's where I first heard this for the first time.
Can you actually, though, legitimately? Sorry, can you actually explain what a pre-gap track? I know we've talked about it a bunch, but
it's relevant here,
listeners, the people might not know.
Yeah. So, for a pre-gap track is exclusive to CDs. So, when you have the CD of Mmhmm, when you put it in, you can, when it first starts, you can rewind into the negative space in the little pre-gap area, and you can hide tracks in there. You can hide short tracks, whereas this one I think is only like 15 seconds, but you can hide full songs in there. Dashboard Confessional hid 2 songs on one of their records, so you can hide. Sometimes they can be songs, some they can be just like little skits or like an intro or something like that. Whatever you want to put in there.
Is this our 3rd album that we've covered that has a pre-gap? I know for sure ACB.
Yep, Hell or High Water.
Acid Burn has one.
Polarity did.
Polarity,
right? Yeah.
And I think this is the 3rd.
It's at least the 3rd. There may have been another one, but
could be more.
All right, jammers, let us know. I'll send you something cool if you can figure out there's another album we've covered that has a pre-gap. They don't know it's going to be a VHS copy of Scent of a Woman.
Yeah, at your own discretion.
That's the one they were waiting for.
Yep, exactly. So there is a pre-gap track. It's very brief, but
yeah. Is it worth it?
Worth waiting for?
Is it?
Yeah. Do you think it adds
listening to
the overall album experience?
I think it's just a fun Easter egg. It's just a fun Easter egg.
I like it because like they were, the last album, the secret track at the end was like such a big part of that listening experience for me.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And that was like so silly. So it feels like maybe a way to sort of connect to their previous thing, but in a different way because they're more grown up now. We do it at the beginning.
Now we do it at the beginning, yeah. And it wouldn't be the last time that they've done a pre-gap track.
Oh,
Mark Lee Townsend loves him a pre-gap
Yes, he does.
Nerd. No, we love it too.
Well, hold on. That legitimately is the most antagonistic you've ever been on this show.
Oh, I know. But also, I just know that MLT can take it, and he knows that I mean it with all the sweetness of a darling
funny.
baby boy.
I know, it was just so funny that you picked that
pre-gap track.
That's so funny. I love that.
I don't know why.
I was like,
I'm feeling punchy because we're covering this awesome album that he produced. So I feel like I can sneak in a dig
That's true.
Kylan was trying to cover it, and then I just halted it just right before we even got to track 1.
I was trying so hard to make this like a quick episode, and we haven't even got to track 1.
I'm surprised there's actually 15 songs on this record. Yep.
Oh my god. Okay, track 1, the one I'm waiting for.
Huge effervescent energy.
Such
right
a
out
good
the gate.
album opener.
Okay, can we talk about the transition at that 8-second mark?
Yes.
So we already have this strong motif, right? Like right out of the gate, first track, first 5 seconds of the first track, we've got this great motif. And then a giant shift in the feel of that motif from that straight, simple, kind of open rock feel with the like closed hats and crazy articulate kick and snare pattern. And then we get that crazy like accented fill on the and for and.
You're right.
Where like mid bar where it kicks into the same motif but with a fast punk beat. And all they do is turn it up to 11.
Don't understand. Yeah. It's not just a do da da do da. It's like it's hits in weird
it's way
places.
Faster. And it has, some complexities inside it.
Yeah.
Dave's the man. Dave is the man.
Oh, his drums on this record are so good.
Insane. That honestly is like most of my notes. I'm like, these drums sound...
As it should be.
They sound so good. Too.
They sound so good. Like, he just hits so hard. Like, you can feel it. Like, not just that he's hitting these really complex things, or that they're just mixed really well. Like, you can hear how hard he's hitting the drums.
Yeah, and how huge they are, how resonant, like the quality of the shells. It's chef's kiss. It's chef's kiss. Yeah. I can't say it enough. And like the engineering crew, mixing, production, like everything is just like dialed for drums. And I love it.
So it's so funny, like they do have so many, and a lot of it comes out in the drums. They do have a lot of like punk elements on this album, but it's so weird. Like I never think of Relient K as a punk band. Like
because they're so tight. They're so
literally
polished.
is my note. That literally is my note. Is because they're so tight. Like I wish I could screenshot this and send it to you. They are such a tight band at this point. Huh? Yeah.
Only there was a way to do that.
Shut up. I'm trying not to derail us too much, guys. I'm trying to keep us on track. Do you guys see how red my face is getting? It's so goddamn hot in here. They're just so tight and so interesting musically. Like,
and that's not usually associated with punk, right?
Right.
And that's why you don't think of them that way. But they are, like, deep down in a lot of ways, they have so many elements of a punk band.
Bring it to the
and
next
especially
level.
Dave's drums. Yeah, they really do. They elevate the form. Yeah, they totally just elevate what punk can be. And they show that it can take new, like, they evolve it to a new level.
Man, it's like, as it was prophesied, it's the shape of punk to come, Pop punk.
Yeah, Refused thought they had it figured out.
I was going to make that joke, but I was too far away. I'm still gone, but I was planning on making that joke. Okay, bye.
I mean, there's also some like tasty guitar licks all over this, out of the gate.
And the guitars sound huge. Classic Mark Lee Townsend trademark that the guitars are just so huge and everywhere they need to be and loud and big, but without being too much.
And not where they don't need to be. Yeah,
not
exactly.
where they don't need to be, TJ. That's correct.
It's so tasteful. Ugh, I love it.
It's been fun like going back especially like after becoming a guitarist to Relient K, because as a kid, I'm kind of just listening to the music and a lot of like Thiessen because of his vocals and his witty lyrics and everything. That was like a big thing but now like as I'm like going back to Relient K as a guitarist now, I'm like, dang, Matt Hoops, he's very understated in what he's doing, but it's perfect for the song.
Yep.
Yes.
Like
he's not a big flashy guy like, hey, I'm going to show up in your face, just be shredding, but everything he adds is just so good.
Yeah. I said monster. I'm gonna rephrase. I'm gonna correct ninja. He is a ninja, a guitar ninja,
an assassin.
And yeah, honestly, assassin. But I love that we go from that kind of like open rock feel to punk, like crazy fast complex punk beat, and then we get this crazy like kick-ass fill from Dave at around 42 seconds into what I'm gonna call muscle disco. Okay.
Well, I want to talk about the bucket of fish.
Yeah, bucket of fish.
Bucket of fish. Bucket of fish.
Yep. Bucket of fish. Yep. Bucket of fish. That's the kick-ass fill I was talking about.
Of course.
Into muscle disco, y'all.
Oh yeah,
muscle disco. Are you coining this term?
Yeah, well,
is this a new term?
I think Dave coined it. Dave invented it.
All right.
I'm just naming what I already.
Oh, you're just naming, but the term muscle disco has not been spoken outside of a YMCA Village People show until now, right?
There's no proof.
All right, it's on the books now. You've officially coined it.
I'm the one that everyone was waiting for to bring it out of the YMCA context. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I love the kind of slow disco beat. Yeah. And then we drop down to the quiet tag. Like they're just like wizards with songcraft.
Oh yeah,
and
dynamics.
They're using
what a way to
all the tricks in the book
come out, like your first major label. It shows like they've got the chops.
And then from that, like when they drop down to that quiet tag, then I'm to be the one you're waiting for, and then to go from ostensibly 0 to 100 back to that like lightning in a bottle punk beat. Right. It's just like they had it figured out. And what I want to know is like, did they have all those parts sorted when Matt brought the song to the table? Like that's a question I would love to ask someone that was involved in the songwriting recording process.
I don't know though. I feel Mark Lee Townsend all over this too.
Yeah, I would love to know how much of it was
it feels like I can't necessarily articulate it at this point, but based on other albums, like based on talking with him and other albums that he produced, like I can see those like little ear candy moments that he does, because he does that thing where it's like, oh, this thing is really cool. And then he's like, yep, I know. You don't get any more of it. Or we'll bring it back.
Or tweak it.
Just for a little bit later. Yeah.
Yep. Turn it on its head a little bit. Or shorten it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I love the layered vocals on the chorus, on the last chorus, because that's also a nice touch, and it kind of like makes the ear lean in a little bit to the chorus, where you could be tuning out at that point. Like, okay, I get it. I'm still waiting for you to be the one I'm waiting for. But he adds something tells me this is going to make sense. Something tells me it's going to take patience. And really, that's what got me to connect with the lyrics on this one as a 36-year-old, because it put me in the seat of the person that is still needing to grow and still needing to like mature and still needing to like show up maybe in a relationship. And that takes a lot of patience from the person that's willing to wait, right? Like, I'm waiting for you to be the one I'm waiting for. Like,
that's good.
The solidarity in that, from whether it's a friend, a family member, a significant other, a child-parent relationship, like, It put me in the seat of the person that like, oh, I'm the one that people have been waiting on in certain relationships. But it was that line at the end of the chorus.
It's an anti-breakup song, right? Like it's super hopeful,
right.
But still like
it's like, let's make this
accountable.
work.
Yeah. Allegedly, this song is about Katy Perry whenever they were dating, or because that was around this time. So I think that's what's always been alleged, that this was about her.
Well, it's canon now.
Canon now.
Yep.
Muscle disco.
Sure is.
The first one to put it up. Muscle disco. So my favorite part of the song is at 2:03, where we're doing the guitar line, and there's a second guitar part that comes in at the end of the line, and then there's like one of them like bends up and it stays sustained, and you can hear it kind of trail off.
The
like
bend,
it's just such a adds a second line to harmonize, and then we have the bend that just sustains
a little
out.
tension. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just so a very nice touch that, like, after like kind of like you were saying, TJ, if your ears like kind of tuned out, like you're like, oh, I've heard this before. Like that's just a great little trick of like, here's a new thing that we can add to this to make it a little more interesting.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like it's showy or like narcissistic. Like none of those moments ever feel like they're not serving the song. They always feel like they're adding rather than distracting or pulling you away.
Right.
Which is great.
Sweet, guys. Well, I'm hoping you can be my escape.
You've been
from
begging,
this hot
begging.
room.
Yes, I would love to be. Come on over.
Let's move on to track number 2, Be My Escape.
Because I gotta get out of here. I'm stuck inside this rut that I fell into by mistake. I gotta get out of here. And I'm begging you to be my escape.
This is the big one, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, and honestly, this could also have been the album opener.
For sure.
Like, energetically, you know, like it comes barreling right out of the gate with huge energy as well.
Yes.
And then that bass and drum groove at 17 seconds
first
that we're hearing right now.
Sweet bass, baby.
Hey, Mr. Pittman getting some sweet bass.
Just crushing it.
But yeah, okay, so this song to me, this is, like I said, this is what I was talking about with Mark Lee Townsend. Because this song, like, structurally, it's relatively straightforward. But there's all these like weird little moments of like 1 or 2 bars of something different. Because like that intro, I mean, that's basically like 3 different intros to the song in like 20 seconds. Because you've got just the guitar, and then the whole band comes in. It's still that same kind of like that could just be the intro,
straight ahead,
and then we get the stabs.
Most people would
rocking.
be fine. Like this makes sense. And then it goes into that weird little like groove. 3, 4, 1, 2.
With a lot of that like
4.
double kick energy.
It's just like 4 bars, and then it goes into the piano.
And that same thing comes back in the bridge, but they knew to not overdo it, right? At that point. Because it was going to come back. And you love it when it comes back. When the bass and drum groove comes back, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. This is great. And I get more of it with lyrics this time? What?
There's one moment in the song that I don't think is anywhere else in the song. I could be wrong. But at 2:10, there's like 1 or 2 bars where it's got the drums are like filtered and like overdriven.
Oh,
feel really roomy. It's this part right here.
Yeah.
And it's just that's the only time that like that effect is on the drums.
It's just an instrumental tag. Like just a pivot into the next part of the song.
And I'm like, I want more of that. And like a whole like groove of that, but it's like that's it. That's it.
Yeah, like 2 bars of 4 and it's gone.
Yeah.
So cool.
This is a big moment because like not only is this RK's most popular song and still their highest stream song when you look them up. So like obviously biggest commercially for them, and I think it's the one everyone knows, even if they aren't like in the CCM Relient K world, like people know this song. Yeah. But if for like the RK catalog, this is where I feel like they were going to be like unapologetic with like, hey, we're making the piano a key part of the Relient K sound, because I feel like they've done it a little bit in the past on the first couple records, and maybe they're kind of testing the waters, and maybe Thiessen was just playing more guitar then too. But
and I think feel maybe he got better, like more more confident in his writing on piano, and also a better pianist, because he is incredible. On this album.
He's and that becomes such a huge part of their sound going forward. But I feel like this is the moment where they're like, okay, we're committing to it, and like you get it on this record, but this is the first time that I feel like we really get it. Like to that level,
like planted their flag intentionally.
Because now when you think of Relient K, like when I think of them, I picture Thiessen on a piano and hoops on a guitar, like and it's like that's Relient K to me. Yeah.
Jokes, guys.
So, but
jokes.
Like
they're different.
This is like the moment where they're like, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think you're right, Josh. I think it was like an intentional choice to make this the single, to make piano like a very prominent part of the song. I mean, even like the part where it drops down to the low chorus with the strings, and then the piano features again really prominently. I think, and then there's the outro, like the weird like marimba.
Yes, let's talk about the
6/8. Who saw that coming? Except that it's a classic Relient K move to juxtapose 4/4 and 6/8.
We didn't know it was classic.
Yeah,
No, I love the whole outro of it all because one, it doesn't make the radio cut, which makes sense. But having it go down to where it's like somber and softer, it's like, and it doesn't give you the resolution that maybe you're kind of like hoping for in it. It's just like, it kind of leaves you in this kind of like, oh, we're kind of still like sad here, which I like that as a move of being like, let's just, now let's like get even lower, like into it.
Yeah, let's sit with it.
Sit with it, yes. Mm-hmm. And there's some good moments about on this record that do that.
Yeah. And I like too that it's a choice to, with that outro, to end not only in like an unresolved kind of sad place, but the falsetto vocal kind of supports that lyrical idea, but it still has this like sliver of positivity because yes, the character singing is trying to save their own skin, but then like pointing to if it's a Christ figure, if it's a relationship, if it's somebody that has cared about you, realizing that all along they were also trying to look out for you and support you and be selfless and consider you. Like, I love that flip of like, I was just trying to save my own skin, but so were you.
Right.
It's a nice like note to end on. Like,
pretty great.
Not full resolution, but acknowledgement of like, oh, you were looking out for me. It's a good sentiment.
No, I like that take. I've always interpreted it as like, I was trying to save my own skin, and you were also trying to save your own skin. That's how I've always interpreted it. But I like
either
one can work.
Translations here. I think it works both ways.
Yes, you can,
and that's a good lyricist.
Take art any way you want. Wow,
and interpret it.
It's not just one thing.
I guess it's subjective, you guys.
Here at Church James Now, art is subjective.
Art is subjective. Whoa, good work, guys. Go team. We can back it up.
All right, this has been Church James here. Now.
Our work here is...
hey, I did want to bring up... I totally forgot to bring this up earlier. I think it's really fun. This is probably not going to make the edit. I think it's really fun that Relient K is from Canton, Ohio, and I happened to be on a trip to visit my wife's grandparents, and I'm recording this episode from Canton, Texas. I'm going to add another applause break.
Spiritual siblings of locations. Are you able to harness some of like the Relient K energy between like the Canton portals?
For sure.
Okay.
The Canton portals.
Totally.
I think that's the high
Canton
school
portals.
Basketball
Everybody
team.
knows about those.
Yeah, there's a portal in Canton, Texas that will take you right to Canton, Ohio.
Yep.
You just got to find it.
That's good to know.
Straight to Matt Thiessen's childhood doorstep. It's not creepy. It's not creepy.
I'm losing my mind because it feels like this room has a high of 105. So let's move on to the next track. Track number 3, high of 75.
Now I'm sunny with the high of 75 since you took my heavy heart and made it light. And it's funny how you find you enjoy your life when you're happy to be alive.
Is this the same key as Be My Escape? Do we know?
I think so.
Maybe?
Because this intro, it's the same intro.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the two chords. And I never tracked that until this time. Because look, here's Be My Escape.
But it's major this time.
That's true. I think it's a different key. But it's cool because it feels really intentional. Like it's keeping that continuity, right? Like that motif. Like
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never clocked that
in a new way.
I never did either.
That it's
I always thought they sounded really similar,
chords,
but I never thought about them being in the same key or the major minor difference there, Josh.
I think it's got to be intentional.
Fascinating.
I hope I'm not reading too much into it.
Yeah,
because I'm about to have a heat stroke. But I thought it was really cool. It was like one of my favorite like discoveries on this listen through.
Yeah, that's cool. You guys, Matt is such a wizard at finding interesting turns of phrase or even humdrum topics of conversation, like the kind of stuff you just overhear at a restaurant or like say to a gas station attendant or something. Like he's so good at finding those like just pedantic turns of phrase and then turning them into some really powerful, funky metaphor that's also super relatable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He makes it seem easy. He makes it seem effortless.
But that's not.
It is not. It is not easy.
Relient K makes talking about the weather fun and relatable.
And somehow not hokey. Like, that's the big thing. Like, I don't know how they pull it off, but it doesn't feel campy or, like, stupid. Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, no, of course. Like, this is a metaphor for emotional wellness and, like, mood swings and things.
Yeah, lately the weather has been so bipolar. Consequently, so have I.
So have I.
This is my second favorite song about the weather. So, I mean, it's really pretty good. Yeah.
What's your first?
It's Raining Men, obviously. So,
of course.
I love the weird little programmed electro drums.
I do too.
I wrote that too.
And then I love that we love
the electronic drums
beat at the end.
Yes.
It's such a fun little touch to have the chorus be this like, ooh, we're like 200004 dancey or like MySpace dancey.
Well, especially like having stuff. The kick with the claps and then just the piano. They drop it down to just, I feel like that was like something that they're like kind of laughing at, like, haha, would it be funny if we did this? And then someone was probably like, actually, that sounds pretty cool.
That works.
Like, yeah. It seems like one of those discoveries because you're like, we wouldn't do this. But, it kind of actually works. We should do it.
No, I do feel like it was one of those. And even if it wasn't, it's cool that it feels like one of those, like where it was like a happy accident and then they just leaned into it. Because that makes some of the best art. Like when you take a risk, you're just joking around, but then you're like, no, actually, that's great.
Actually, yeah, exactly. I have a production question for y'all.
Yes.
The little phasery sequence of the dun 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 thing in the intro.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that a synth or is that a guitar?
I always thought it was guitar.
I'm going to guess guitar.
Okay, cool.
With like
I think so too, but then I started to question myself.
Trim thing on it or something?
Yeah, trim. It sounds like it's just got, you don't hear like the attack of it, but yeah, I'm going to guess
This is such a good like pop song.
It is. I feel like on this one, like, this is the first song that's kind of like a little happier Thiessen, but he still sounds like he's got some storm clouds going, you know? And I feel like over this whole record, I think on like some of the previous records, it's pretty like Thiessen, he does get into some like lower moments, and then not every song is like silly and whatever, like moody and moody rings. But I feel like over this record, he is kind of in that space where it's like, I'm like kind of going through some stuff or like dealing with some heavier stuff here. And so, and obviously this whole song is about that, of like finding the highest of the sun in it. So I'm like, it makes sense.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I thought of this song as maybe the first one in this record that feels like it's almost having a conversation with mood rings. I think it's Thiessen being a little more self-aware and self-reflective and saying like, oh my God, I'm moody too. Like I'm like also unpredictable.
Some, like, self-awareness.
Yes. And I think that's great because like, what better way to like kind of confront maybe some songwriting that felt tunnel vision-y or problematic on some level, or just like not fully, giving space, like allowing space for somebody's full humanity to show up, than to write a song that's admitting the same thing about yourself. Like, I can be down in the dumps too, and I can be hard to deal with for that reason. I even have a hard time dealing with myself, you know?
But I totally get it. And to wrap it up in a lyrical concept that's like essentially mundanity, right? Like, because like talking about the weather is like shorthand for like
that's why it's the
truly
best.
Connecting with people, right? Like small talk is like,
just small talk.
It's sunny today. Like you talk about the weather when you don't know what to talk about.
Yeah, or when you don't want to confront the fact that you're not feeling great. You just say like, I'm doing good. Well, it's great weather out there.
Crazy, man. Controversial. Not to be controversial. He's a good songwriter.
Yeah, not to be controversial. Great song. And like weirdly, I relate to it more now than when I listened to it when it first came out. Because living in the PNW, being in my 30s, like I get some seasonal affective disorder pretty bad.
Right.
And I also have lots of moments where there's some internal exploration that can feel like stormy weather. So good song. Even in
and it works on so many other levels too, because like it can also fully work in the like cheesy Christian concept of it. right? Like you could do the like, you know, sunny with a high of 75 since you took my heavy heart and made it light. Yeah. Like that feels like a VBS line. You know what I mean? Like it just works.
Sunny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
yep.
It was good. It was really good song.
And on the note of that line, like took my heavy heart and made it light, that idea of being down or heavy, being heavy-hearted and it being made light is a theme we see again,
right?
Like later throughout this album. So he's not only like using this layered metaphor really effectively, but he's introducing a theme that will be seen again and
for sure,
you know, a consistent lyrical motif. So
yeah,
strong song. We keep saying
is it anyone's favorite?
Yep. It is not.
Oh, Josh, do you have predictions of our favorites?
I didn't have predictions this time around. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's fine.
Sorry to let you down.
It's okay. Well, I so hate the consequences of me recording in this room because I might die of heat exhaustion.
Yeah, do you have some water in there? Do you have some water in there? I want to make sure you're staying hydrated.
Well, I got beer. That's
not
basically
just beer,
water.
buddy.
It's Miller Lite. It's basically water.
Okay,
guys.
that is water. Yeah, you're right. I take it back.
So let's move on to track number 4, I So Hate Consequences.
And I so hate consequences. The running from you is what my best defense is. Consequences, God don't make me face up to this. And I so hate consequences. The running from you is what my best defense is. 'Cause I know that I let you down, and I don't wanna deal with that.
This was so close to being my favorite song.
It's up there for me.
Yeah, it's great.
This features our good friend, correct?
Yes, it does.
Our good
Two-time
friend
friend of the show, Kevin
Oh,
Keane.
Kevy.
Yep.
I'm the guy that helped me buy my house.
Yep. And he did tell the story. If you haven't listened to Kevin tell the story about this song and how he got a gold record on the feature of it, you can hear it on his first interview.
Yep.
Volume 45 or 44 or
44,
something like that. Yeah, 44. So check that out if you haven't. And also has vocals from David Bunton of The Showdown.
Nice.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is he the one doing the screaming?
I assume he has to be. Because there are some other vocals on here that aren't Thiessen, and I've always assumed that they're Dave, and I think they might still be, because I don't think it's Dave Douglas. I don't think it's David Bunton. Because David Bunton has a pretty thick accent. But I think it's Dave Douglas, maybe?
No, Dave and Matt have, across their discography, done the like trade-off vocal thing. And anytime I hear a voice and I'm like, that's not Thiessen, I automatically think it's Dave. And that's why earlier, Josh, I was like, let's clarify, because there are probably some vocals on here that I'm thinking are Dave and are not.
Yeah.
But I do want to say a lot of that's him. Obviously, not the parts that are Kevin. Kevin, we hear you.
Kevin just has the one line, the got to get away from all my mistakes, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Could have been him
because
trading it off in the
lyrics.
His
girlfriend.
Could have been him trading it off,
go hang with this girl.
Wanted to leave.
Priorities, man.
Okay, guys, quick question. Palm muted guitars on a verse that open up in the second part of the verse are like literally the best thing ever, right?
The best thing ever. Correct.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
agreed.
You didn't even need to ask, but I like that you did.
Like, it's one of the most perfect things in the world. Like, hearing this again rivaled the day that I met my daughter. No, that's... my other big note is the quickest way to my heart is double vocals, two guys sharing vocals, a halftime chorus, and one perfectly placed scream.
Yes.
Like, that to me is like 10 out of 10 would skate. Like,
that's all you need. Yep.
That's all you need. That's the epitome of music. We peaked, guys.
That's all you need to do to make good music. Those three things.
If it only had triplets, then it would be, I think, the perfect song.
Yeah, that's true. You do need that in there, but yeah, you get a Dave Punk beat, so it works. You know.
And I was gonna say, honestly, Dave probably snuck in a triplet. We just, our ears aren't quick enough. Our brains,
20 years later,
haven't evolved enough to be able to
process
process
the triplet that Dave buried.
The Dave Douglas.
Maybe if we slowed it down to like 75%,
we'd still be like,
we would find it. Yeah. No, one of the things that I really love about the song, why it's a close favorite for me, I love songs that you could like kind of encapsulate like a band's sound and range in them, so that if you had to, if you have someone that you have never heard of, whatever band you're talking about, you could be like, here's this one song that basically kind of takes you through, shows you all the best parts of what they're good at. And I feel like this is a good contender for that song. It's always like, because you get the kind of the soft piano moment, and you get the big upbeat punk sound, and it's loud, but it's quiet as well. So
no, I'm glad you brought that up, Josh, because I mean we've kind of alluded to it already, but man, the dynamic range, like the sheer, like massive spectrum, like lyrically, thematically, like the emotional range in the vocal performances, sonically, instrumentally, is crazy across this album. And this does feel like a nice, like kind of buttoned up, smaller thesis statement to the paper of in that way, proving the range that Relient K has at this stage in their career. And like, yeah, I mean, you've got strings, you've got like a very like tender, penitent, vulnerable section of song. You have fast, loud, and angry, and they juxtapose perfectly. I think you're absolutely right. This is a great sort of touch point for that. Mm-hmm. It's a perfect song. I don't know.
And
like
he's able to get away.
Like to speak to your point, Josh, like it does, like it feels like a sizzle reel of who Relient K is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, you only have like 4 minutes. Show us everything you got.
What can you do? Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that he names this song that something like a teen Valley girl would say, and he totally gets away with it. Like no one's ever been like weird song title tease, and everyone's like, yeah, I so hate consequences.
Mm-hmm. But it somehow works.
Yep.
I also really like, speaking of the vocal performance and just like the, I don't know, really emotive quality in it, the first bridge, which is awesome that there's two bridges in this song. I have to distinguish between them. But I spent all last night tearing down, the kind of like back and forth vocals. Every stoplight and stop sign in this town. There's just something about the kind of rough and ready quality of those vocal deliveries happening in that section. They're dripping with emotion. They're not even all technically great. They're still good.
Yeah,
and they feel
sounds
correct.
Strained. Yeah.
Yes, in a good way. Like there's
it's
a
like
rawness
it's similar to
it.
like when like Chris Carrabba hits some of those like long sustained notes, and you're like,
yes.
I mean, that's not really the note, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because it's just like
there's some grit.
Whoa, like he feels
emotion.
You believe it.
Yes. Yes.
It's real emo. I don't mean that as like an insult. Like it is real emo music. Not like,
you're witnessing
real, like really
emotional authenticity.
And I love some personification in songs. After all of my alibis desert me, and as my sins they watch me leave, I love some personification. You know,
yeah,
so nice.
Exactly.
That's a way to my heart.
Totally.
And 2/3 of the way there.
The thought of dealing with the repercussions when we screw up is more relevant to me and resonant in my 30s than it was even as a high schooler. Like,
well, yeah. And were there a lot of songs
are proving
as a high schooler and when you're a teenager that were like, yeah, there are consequences to actions.
Right. Not many. Not many. And like, I'm just kind of wowed by how the songs on this album so far, they have staying power.
They're so much more emotionally resonant now. Yeah.
Yes. But they have shelf life.
To go back to what I alluded to like way early on was, so I was 14 when this album came out. And I was like, I was starting to really like feel like I was coming into being a real person. And with that came a lot of like really big feelings. And a lot of what this album did was simplify and articulate a lot of those feelings. That it's incredible though that can resonate with like a 14-year-old boy and a full-grown man. Like coming back to it now, I'm just like, oh my God, like this is perfect.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It still works.
All right, guys. The only thing worse than beating a dead horse is me dying in this room. So let's move on to the next track. The only thing worse than beating a dead horse is betting on one.
Opinions are immunity to being told you're wrong. Paper, rock, and scissors,
Dude, I just have to say it. This whole song, it's very weird. My approach for how I feel about this song is very strange because it's not my favorite song because I don't think I can call it my favorite song because it feels like a bite-sized little like pizza like bagel bite. It feels like a bagel bite. But it is my absolute much like favorite a bagel bite. Moment.
When pizza's on a bagel, you can have it anytime.
You can have it anytime. Because this is like a minute long or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's barely over it.
It's like they had to remind people of the punk and pop punk.
Yeah.
Because they've done the pop.
Yeah. And how economic of like a songwriter Matt can be. Like he is so efficient. I feel like
he's like, how many words can I get into these first couple lines?
Yes. I wrote, it feels like the sonic equivalent of Mountain Dew straight in your veins. But the lyrics are so good. Like the delivery, the clear staccato delivery and the energy in the vocal is bananas. The like mallet bell, like gong bell things are
hey, I wrote that down. We get more Markley Townsend bells.
Yeah.
God, so good.
Man loves his
Becoming
bells.
his trademark move to give bell sounds to you.
Yep. Nice.
But then those harmonies are like straight Beach Boys. Like
yes.
I think I brought up the Beach Boys thing on the Christmas.
I mean, that's pretty. Anytime we talk about Relient K, I feel like we're going to talk about Beach Boys.
It's going to come up.
Right. I mean, you have to. Like, this is like Beach Boys on mescaline. It's just like, it's those harmonies and they're so tight, but
I have to read these lyrics because it passes by so quickly that I don't know that I fully appreciate it, and I don't know if our listeners have fully appreciated these lyrics as much as they need to be appreciated. So I'm just going to slow it down and read these lyrics for us. Just listen to the politician wishing his position wasn't missing everything his heart would like to say. And a constant in the Constitution is that there can't be one solution. It'd be so far from the truth, and we would hate it anyway. Opinions are immunity to being told you're wrong. Paper, rock, and scissors, they all have their pros and cons. And all of us, we will endure, just like we always have. But you can't be too sure how long this will last. Because we control the chaos in the back of our minds. Our problems seem so small, but they grow on us like gravity. But gravity still makes us fall. Those are great lyrics.
It's so good. Yep. Yeah, like really good.
Just casually dropped into a one some odd minute song.
Yeah. That you're mostly distracted by like the punk of it all, and then
yes. And the chord progression and the Beach Boys harmonies that are like really cathartic.
Yeah.
The paper, rock, scissors part have their pros and cons. It's very like almost like Gregorian. It's so great.
Yeah.
So I can't call it my favorite song, but it's my favorite moment.
It's your favorite moment. Okay.
Because it's a moment. That. It passes just like that.
It's up there.
I can dig that.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I gotta say, I think I'm the one you should be sorry for because
nice,
very nice.
Stuck in this hot box of a room. So let's move on to track number 6, My Girl's Ex-Boyfriend.
He's a guy that you should feel sorry for. He had the world, but he thought that he wanted more. I owe it all to the mistake he made back then. I owe it all to my girl's ex-boyfriend.
This is a pretty serviceable pop punk song. It's not my favorite by any means. I think a lot of that is, you know, on this listen now, right? Like TJ's talking a lot about how like emotionally resonant so many of the lyrics are. And this one, you know, through no fault of theirs, it feels like kind of a step back in terms of that. It's like, let's go back to like a little bit kind of high school-y.
That's why it was one of the songs I liked whenever I first got the record. Like, they're being so serious. Right. But I like My Girl's Ex-Boyfriend, you know?
Yeah.
It's not as serious.
He's the one you should be sorry for.
I mean,
like
dude,
it's okay. I don't have much to say about it. What were you going to say?
Well, it's funny because even when it's just like a kind of admittedly sort of predictable resting on our laurels song, it's still great. Like, I don't know, the line, if it wasn't for him, he'd be as happy as me, is like brain twisty in a fun way that feels like a college freshman, but like getting into existentialism and just found a new relationship, and like the guy across from him in the dorm was the ex, and he's like tripping over like, oh my gosh, like I could have been that guy, but instead I'm this guy, and my life is working out, you know? I don't know. It's funny because it still has some like thinky poeticness to it, like in the way that we know Matt.
It's like to me, this feels the most similar to Mood Rings, but it's like it's not misogynistic. It's just like that sort of like condescension is sort of just like put on someone else.
Yeah, on the ex-boyfriend. Yeah, it's funny because there is this level of like emotional resonance, but then there's also like a major cognitive dissonance in it. Right. And so it makes it super weird to sing along to in the same way that Mood Rings does. Feel weird to sing along to. Yeah. But yeah, the onus
but it's also
is
just like it's really catchy and it's fun and
yes. Oh, it's a masterclass in arrangement and production. This song is great because like the way the instruments either match, support, or create tension with the vocal line is excellent in this song. It's very upbeat. It's short and sweet. It doesn't overstay its welcome. They play with a lot of clean stops and like the downbeat and the upbeat, the like the and like those up stops that they're doing, like, which is really hooky to the ear, I think. So even though it's got these like, you know, in 2024, these elements lyrically that are a little cringy, there's so much to love sonically that it's almost like, oh yeah, this one's fun, and I can vibe out.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I'm not even thinking about it.
There's some bass in here that we get to notice again, but it sounded like in the verses that there's like one part towards the end of one of the lines where he like throws in like a bass chord, and I'm like, ooh, it's so quick, but it's so tasty. And it's like, you don't get a lot of that, but at least I've never noticed a lot of that in like Brian's playing, but that was a really fun discovery on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, he has some moments that are like pretty jazzy or like exploratory that feel kind of like out of the norm that just kind of pop up here and there. And you're like, oh, okay, Brian, I see.
Yeah, we're like, you could just be doing roots, but you know what? Did something fun there. Yeah.
Decided to get tasty with it.
Good times.
The outro is also where we get the pre-gap track. It's kind of pulled from this ending.
Yeah.
So this is where that
So
comes
if you
from.
heard the pre-gap, you'd be like, oh, that's where that came from.
That's where they got it from, yep. Just without Thiessen singing vocals over top of it.
And then, so Josh, on the vinyl, is this the end of side A?
I think it's it's a double LP.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
it's
Never mind.
Yeah, so it's less.
Well, because this is like halfway through the record, basically.
Basically, yeah. There's 14 songs, so I'd say the next song
I guess
is
more than useless would be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we keep this going too much longer, I am going to be more than useless.
You are. You're already getting there. Don't worry.
That's true. Let's move on to track number 7, More Than Useless.
I'm a little more than useless. When I think that I can't do this, you promise me that I'll get through this and do something right for once.
Okay, so when I was in 7th grade, when this album came out, this was my favorite song.
It's so good.
Does it resonate with like middle schoolers? Because it did with me too.
100%.
Must be like, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. But I also have to say, as a man in my 30s, this is still my favorite song on the record.
Oh, all right.
It's like we're saying, man. These songs have staying power.
They
really do.
So good. This whole song, it reminds me a lot of I So Hate Consequences. Like it does a kind of similar thing. It's got a similar energy.
Yeah. Yes.
It might be a little poppier, but okay, I want to go in like through like some of these parts. The intro,
Let's do it.
like I love that those like dissonant chords that and obviously they did too because they bring it back. Like they did not have to do that for the outro, but then they do the outro like halftime with the toms.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Because like you think the song ends at 3:19.
Yeah.
And then they just
and
bring
I
it
like
right
that
back
it
in.
just it ramps down. The energy, like the chord progression is the same, but the energy is like this mellowing like meditation almost at the end, where Dave's just like jamming out.
Right.
And they're just kind of like winding down. It's so good.
And they repeat that line on the acoustic guitar for the bridge.
Yeah, right. I love it on the acoustic.
And it's such a
so
smaller
good.
iteration, but it's still reminding you.
And then once again, it's got those palm muted verses.
Yeah.
And then it opens up.
And then big chunky stabs.
And then there's the weird little Motion City soundtrack.
Hey, that's what I said.
Yeah, it's totally Motion City soundtrack.
Yep.
After the first chorus.
Yep.
The synth line.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so
super
good.
Motion City. But yeah, and then like it just like it's got the double vocals. It like goes through all these like weird little parts. Like every part is interesting. Like it keeps you interested. I gotta say too. Dave does this drum fill. He does it once every verse. That is just like incredible because it doesn't need to be there. Like the verses would be totally fine.
They'd be
without
just
it.
fine.
But for some reason, that drum fill is like the coolest fucking thing I have ever heard. Every time I hear it,
it makes the verse.
Like he just it's so good. Then they go into a sweet snare roll with some like twinkly guitars, and the piano's so good.
Yeah,
the song's so good. It's
and
so
the double
good.
entendre.
It's so good.
I know this week is a symbol of how I use my time. You're like,
my time.
It's so good.
It is great. I also love the rhyme that he used. If I say, if I can't do something significant.
Yeah.
But he does. He says he like is like kind of dulls the A. Kent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Nothing trivial that life can give me will. It's very forced, but like I love it.
They work. Yeah.
I'm not mad about it. And I feel like that's how you know a good lyricist is like somebody who can force something that shouldn't work, and a good vocalist too, I should say, because the delivery matters. They force something that shouldn't work, but you're not mad. You're like, actually, I love it.
Speaking of vocals, this does have guest vocals from John Warren from Ace Troubleshooter, but he would quickly soon after join Relient K.
Okay.
So he was not with them as an official member right now, and he has vocals on another song as well, but then would later join Relient K for a couple years.
Is he the one that's doing the kind of back and forth singing?
I think he is on this one.
Okay.
I don't think it's Dave.
Like around like 1:15 or something. I made a note about that on that second verse. That would make sense that was him.
I believe so.
If you're out there, jammers, and you can confirm, let us know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or anyone.
Or Danny.
Anyone out there.
That's true.
I'm sure he knows.
Yeah. I got nothing else on that song. Yeah, no, like lyrically, it just, I don't know. I, as someone who's like pretty hard on myself, usually, it's nice to hear I'm a little more than useless.
Yeah, you'll do something right for once, Kylan.
Yeah.
You will,
but
buddy.
That hit big in like 7th grade, right? Like emo Kylan.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like, going through all of that, I'm just like, oh, yeah. Like, it did really resonate with me then. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I haven't grown that much, apparently, because it really resonates with me now.
No, it's just a universally relevant song.
Yes.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
Also, this was almost my favorite also, Kylan. It was like in my top 3.
Wow.
It's so good.
It is very good. All right, guys. Which to bury, us or
the podcast?
Me, because I'm about to die for how hot
so good. So good.
It's sweaty. But you know what? That's also in theme.
It's literally sweaty.
Which to bury, us or the hatchet?
No, I don't hate you, don't wanna fight you. No, I'll always love you, but right now I just don't like like you. No, I don't hate you, don't wanna fight you. No, I'll always love you, but right now I just don't like you. Cause you took this too far, too far.
I'm sorry, I know I took up a lot of time on the last song. Would y'all indulge me in telling a story, starting
of course.
the discussion? Because I alluded to in the beginning, I had a very specific story of how I remember the last time I listened to this album. And I believe it's a story that I may have alluded to on the podcast like early on at some point. Okay, so Two Lefts Don't Make a Right was the first CD I bought with my own money. And I was a weird homeschool kid at the time. I had been going to public school when Mmhmm came out. And I was still like, it was still a lot of like Newsboys, DC Talk. But this album was so big for me. And then in 2015, so then by 2015, I had started to make some friends. I was also into a little bit more like screamo stuff, like Silverstein and Taking Back Sunday and everything. But this album was still really big for me. But I was a little more embarrassed because I didn't have like Christian, like I wasn't friends with any of the kids in my youth group because they were all assholes.
Kylan, I just want to stop you really fast. You said 2015?
Yes. No, sorry, 2005. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
2015 youth group year. Yeah.
Keep trucking.
That.
Keep trucking. I was like, we were friends in 2015, but
I forget, this is 20 years old. Sorry. So I was a little embarrassed about some of my more like Christian leaning musical taste.
Sure.
Right. And I had a couple friends at the time that were like really into like Tool and stuff. Cause like that was like the thing, right? Like 2004, 2005, like middle school, junior high, high school, like Tool seemed to be like a big
I think
thing.
2006 was like 10,000 Days when that album came out or something. So it was like,
this may have been 2006. It definitely wasn't 2015, but it was either 2005 or 2006. And I remember I had a friend who I was like really intimidated by all my friends for a long time because I was a weird homeschool kid. He came over to my house and he was like really into Tool and mindless self-indulgence and like all these like 9 Inch Nails, like all that kind of stuff. And so I was embarrassed to like, but he like wanted to listen to some music. We wanted to put on a CD while we hung out in my room. And I remember I put this album on and he's like, what is this like pop shit? I was like, no, wait, just listen, just wait.
Wow.
I put on this song. I was like, okay, wait, just listen. And I played him like kind of the beginning and then I skipped like a little further in the song. I was like, no, listen, they're heavy. Like they're like heavy music.
Yeah.
And I specifically remember him saying, yeah, but in the bad way. And I was so mortified and embarrassed that I just turned it off. And then he went home and then I didn't listen to the CD ever again.
Oh no.
Which
wait a minute. That's the reason you stopped listening to this album?
Tool killed
the
for Kylan.
Relient K star.
Tool killed the Relient.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
my
because
takeaway
that one
is
asshole kid, that one asshole junior.
Shitty friend, man.
We stopped being friends pretty shortly.
That's my
after
takeaway.
That. But that's like junior high, right? Like that's like
it is. Yeah, that's true.
And I was so embarrassed. I was like, okay, I guess it's like heavy in the bad way, or it's not.
Kylan,
good,
I just want to let you know that you're safe here, and that bad kid's never gonna get you. This podcast is a safe space.
Oh, I know. Oh no. You know what? There is resolution because I did end up seeing him again. Actually, I think in 2015, my wife, who was then my girlfriend, and I went on a trip to Portland, and I was doing stand up at the time. And so while we were in Portland for a week, I was like, hey, let's do some like open mics. Let's just go like hang out. I'll like sign up to do some comedy open mics. Turns out he was a stand up in Portland. And I ran into him at a comedy open mic.
For real.
Yeah. I
know. How was his
really good. And like he does it like professionally. Like, he's really good. He is really good.
So he was working on his burns early,
I guess,
and it paid off.
But I ran into him at an open.
You were
mic,
early
and
material
we
for
started talking.
him.
And, we were like drinking and talking and stuff. And I told him that story, and he was like, "I don't remember that at all." And of course he doesn't.
Of course he doesn't.
Why would he? Right? But it's like that happens with those experiences,
right?
That I held on to this for like so long in my life.
It happened to you. It didn't happen to him. It was just a passing comment for him.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I know that was like hilarious. A wild tangent, but I've been waiting to tell this story on the podcast since we started the podcast.
That's important. Yes, that's important lore. Like this is like some origin story stuff, and it connects back to the band that started the whole thing. So
for sure,
I think that was good podcast content.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hot take.
There you go.
Contentious opinion, but I think that was a good story.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I was nervous about telling you guys the story.
I'm sorry for you.
Why? We can bury the hatchet, Kylan.
Yeah.
We can move on.
That's true. Oh, that's great.
You don't have to bury us. We can bury the hatchet, buddy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it all ties back. That is. You know what? This is good podcasting. Yeah. What's up?
I've got a question for y'all, and it skews into the Grammar Jams Now territory. How do we feel about the semicolon in the title? Do we feel it's an appropriate use of the semicolon?
Okay, so I was going to bring this up too. And I don't know if the semicolon is real or just on Spotify.
Let us consult.
I need Josh to confirm because that was my other note on it.
Back of the CD has a comma on it. Let's check.
That makes so much more sense.
The booklet is also a comma.
Okay, I thought that too.
Confirmed. Never mind.
Okay,
because I saw that
TJ,
today.
Because I went through all that in my brain too, and I literally wrote that out and then decided against it. So
great. Well,
I'm glad you did.
I'll be the semicolon fall guy.
Cool.
You already told your vulnerable story, so
right. We're all being vulnerable here.
Yeah. Get it together, Spotify.
But, y'all, the chorus of this song slaps. It's so catchy.
Yeah.
It feels like it's like spiritual siblings with. Like, we just covered Showbread's No Sir Nihilism is Not Practical, so I'm sorry that this comparison is, like, the thing that it's making me think of, but it reminds me of You're So Selfish It's Funny. Like, that kind of, like you made the point on that episode, Kylan, that it's almost like a high school girl's diary or something, or like something a high school girl would say. This feels similar, but with a little more emotional intelligence and a little more nuance, because it's, no, I don't hate you, don't want to fight you, I'll always love you, but right now I just don't like you.
But
it feels very like
so good. Yeah.
Taylor Swift level dopamine sing along kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
In the best way. Like
I would love to see Taylor
Swift
Swift
singing this out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She would do it justice. She would have a fun take on it.
Also, the bridge or like the heavy part. Now, back then in my mind it was the bad kind of heavy, but now we classify it on this show. We've reclaimed it as fake heavy.
Fake heavy. We did redeem it as fake heavy. That's correct.
I mean, this bridge is just the wedding. It's the wedding song.
Yeah.
Like his vocals even sound like Kevin.
Yeah.
On the
it makes
old
sense that they were buds.
that we take like that. Hold on, let's get to that part.
Yeah.
That's so Kevin Keane. Like that doesn't sound like Matt Thiessen
with
delivery.
Emotion.
Because Matt Thiessen a lot of times does like he does that. I've noticed it's like he's really precise, right? Like he hits those notes.
Yep.
And that one's got that kind of like scoopy thing that Kevin did.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Totally. Can we back it up to the beginning of the bridge too? Because I counted this, y'all. I counted it.
And even this sounds like early the wedding.
It does. Yeah, with like the phaser kind of.
So we have this bridge just like takes a left turn and decides to do 7 bars of 4, then a bar of 6, and then it repeats.
Why?
And it matches with the screaming, like that count of 6. And then it cuts out early on the last take, but
that's wild.
It's so cool because like Matt's vocal line feels like it should stay in 4, but somehow it sort of like ebbs and flows around the 6 and then coalesces back into it. I don't know. It's just really nice. Wow. And I had never counted it, but I always knew it was a little funky. And the other day,
it has those like, especially those big syncopated hits that you're like, that's not on time like a regular time, like just regular 4/4. So yeah, very cool. We get some banjo on this one too.
I was gonna say the banjo's so good, right,
dude?
Banjo.
I was expecting Kermit the Frog to pop up and join Matt for a Rainbow Connection duet.
Yeah,
I was like, "Where's Kermit?"
And I like it because I did banjo like this on Save My Soul. Because I can't really play banjo. Like, it's not like clawhammer banjo, which is what you expect. It's like, it's a nice, interesting, simple element that adds like sonic interest to the song.
A cool texture. Yeah, totally. And the mix of it is good because the banjo could be too loud and in your face and it would be really offensive. And like, why is this here? This doesn't belong. But to the credit of JR and probably everybody, honestly. Like where it sits is like real tasty.
Yep. I have a 2-for-1 misheard lyrics on this.
Oh, cool.
That I still to this day, and still even on my last listen, which was like an hour before this, I can't get it out of my like I'm never gonna be able to listen to this song with the right lyrics. Okay.
Awesome.
So the first one, they're like back to back basically. Okay, so the first one, make your decision and don't you dare think twice. Go with your instincts, along with some bad advice, right, is the line.
Yep.
I, for some reason, always hear, along with a bag of rice.
Go with your instincts.
It makes sense.
Along with a bag of rice.
That's a common phrase people say.
Usually you bring along your instincts and a bag of rice.
And a bag of rice.
When you go anywhere.
And then the second one is the end of that. You blame me, but some of this is still your fault. I still always hear you blame me, but some the salt to go with the bag of rice. No, you blame me, but Summer, this is still your fault.
Oh, like he's singing to somebody named Summer.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can hear that.
All of a sudden, it's a personal narrative about Summer and the bag of rice that she stole.
Yeah. That's how I've always heard
that
it.
Bag of rice.
I can't change it. I just can't. And I know it's wrong. And I know bag of rice is a bad lyric. But in my mind, I'm just like, well, like Matt Thiessen just missed on this one. That's
Weird
okay.
line, buddy.
It's just he didn't know what he was doing, man. Everything made sense up to then.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right. What else do we have about this song? I feel like I took up a lot of airtime on that one.
You just feel like you let it all out, you know. You kind of had to. I do just want to say it does have vocals from David Bunton on here, but it does sound like there are some like times where it sounds like Matt is getting a little screamy. So I was like, I know that's David screaming in the bridge, but I feel like maybe some of it's still Matt getting a little screamy, which is fun.
Like they maybe did like a dual screaming vocal take.
I think he was just doing it. Like some of them, I think is him. Like David, I think is
just
like
Matt
in the background. Yeah,
that's
I think
cool.
some of it is.
Yeah,
it's Matt like kind of getting up in his register. Yeah. Oh, and then I think
on.
I don't know if I've ever really noticed the secondary vocals in the left speaker at 214 where he says, "One day you'll see this come around." I was listening today. I was like, "Whoa!" I don't know if so. I've only heard it a few times in my life.
That's a cool thing that they decided to include.
Yeah, because it's very subtle, but
it's a nice little texture.
Yeah. Well, like Josh said, we gotta let it all out before I pass out,
melt away.
I love the transition into this next track. I think it's great.
Yes,
it's so good.
Yeah, how the last one comes down.
Track number 9. Let it all out.
And you said, I know that this will hurt, but if I don't break your heart, things will just get worse. If the burden seems too much to bear, remember the end will.
To be honest, when I was listening, when I was younger, it took me a while to realize this was even a separate song. My brain accepted that it was just a long song that Which to Bury, and then Let It All Out was like a second part almost. Of one song.
It helps that they start with the song title to like break that up. But you're like, is this still the same song or is it a new song?
Yeah. I wouldn't look at my CD player, you know, and I was just vibing, and I was like, yeah, no, this makes sense. This is still the same song.
Yeah, this is the logical,
to the credit of the transition,
the logical following in the narrative.
I will say, and I fully understand how wrong this is. I don't like this song very much.
Ooh.
It's no fault of the song. Like I fully know, like I know it's an incredible song. And I think it's sequenced perfectly on the record. And so I can't quite articulate why I don't like it.
Kylan, I have a theory.
Okay.
But I'm gonna wait actually to share my theory.
Okay.
I have a theory for why, but
okay.
I'll share it later. But I kind of get it. I kind of get why you would say that. And at the same time you can say like, no, it's a good song and it's even in the right spot on the album, but I don't like it. I'll share my theory later.
Because this was a highlight for me on this listen where I was like, because I think this was a song that I skipped a lot as a kid. Because like, slow song, boring, skip it.
Right.
But now I was
I think I'm still like that as an adult.
Maybe that's some of it. Yeah. But I love the chorus. Like that's like the way it kind of like feels like it swings a little bit. Like I love that.
Yeah.
And I do think the song like is a very unique perspective of kind of like recognizing pain as like a necessary means for growing and advancing, and like, so that's really cool. But yeah, I love the chorus a lot, and that has vocals from John Davis. His voice is a little nasally in the second verse, which I'm not as crazy about. I'm pretty sure that's him in the second verse, but otherwise I really like this song, and it landed pretty high with me on my listens this week.
Nice.
I just think the piano is so good.
It's
so like good. We've been gassing up Matt as a piano player and talking about how that's a core component of Relient K, really evidently on this record especially. But this song really to me confirms that like he is a composer and like a skilled pianist. Because I could listen to just the piano tracks of this song and be perfectly happy. Just the piano. I mean that literally. Like, I don't know if it was comped or what, but just whatever the piano parts are, I could listen to that from front to back and be pleased as punch. I wouldn't need anything else. And so that's kind of why the song works for me, is I like the piano so much that if I were to get bored because it's like a slow, low moment in the album where it could dip, I'm like, that piano's so pretty. Wow, he wrote a really neat piano part. And I'm good. But I like that you mentioned the lyrical strength on this one, Josh, because I agree. Confronting pain as a means for growth is again a powerful universal truth that all humans understand at some point in their life, and it only gets more real.
Well, I think even lyrically having this right after "Which to Bury Us" or "The Hatchet," like it makes a lot of sense. Like this is the perfect song for to where follow it is. Yeah,
totally. And then we get the return of the theme. You touched my heavy heart and made it light on the outro of this song.
Ah, yeah.
I
didn't catch that actually.
He's working that theme in again, which is cool. And then we have that aux percussion at the end also that that I think also, like, to our point about kind of like thinking about time and healing from pain through time, we have the aux percussion that's almost simulating like a clock, which is interesting because the time shifts to 6/8 there, and it's like a wood block kind of thing, but there's this feeling of like, and I don't know if it's panned or what, but there's just this feeling of like a ticking clock in 2, like in a slow 2 inside the 6. So that was a component that stuck out to me on this last listen as well, that I was like, oh, that's really cool. Because there's a lot about time on this album, and that felt like an intentional musical moment to underline those themes.
And it's another space to kind of let things breathe.
Totally.
Yeah. So why do I hate it?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you in 2 tracks, Kylan.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll circle back.
I like that you do have some we haven't complained enough on this episode, so I'm glad that you kind of are having to push back here, Kylan, you know?
Yeah.
That's more on brand
to be fair, I don't hate it. And you guys, like, I recognize all the reasons.
No, we know what you mean.
It just, I don't know, man. Maybe it is just as simple as...
You're not vibing with it.
Slow song. Bleh.
Slow song
on a long record. Although, hey guys, I will say this album is 50 minutes long, 14 tracks. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel it.
Yeah, because it moves. Other than this little moment, right? It
and
really
the
moves
the
along.
very last track, I felt it a little bit, but
sure.
I felt super engaged the entire time, which I know is like super rare for me with
good
like
job,
long
Relient
albums. K. But yeah, I didn't feel like I didn't feel it because that's the thing. I think it's long, but I think it earns it. Mm-hmm. It keeps everything interesting up to that point. I will say right now though, Who I Am hates who I've been when I decided to podcast in here because I'm so hot. Track number 10, Who I Am hates who I've been.
I'm sorry for the person I became. I'm sorry that it took so long for me to change. I'm ready to be sure I never become that way again. 'Cause who I am hates who I've been.
Also, just the balls to have a banger like this on track 10.
Oh yeah, deep cut.
I love it. I think it's so
good. Yeah.
Killer to just like slip it in track 10 with a killer guitar line.
Oh,
yeah.
Right
so
out of the gate.
good. Maybe one of
Amazing.
Hoops' best parts.
And then
And
right
then
to
I
the
love-
piano. Like,
I love how the piano does it too in
Yes.
the verses. Yes.
Yes, yeah. It's nice that the musical motif returns in the piano and it's lighter
Yes.
later.
Yeah. Between the two singles of Be My Escape and Who I Am, I prefer this song.
Yeah, totally.
Which is, it's pretty like classic Relient K of like dealing with problems that you've caused yourself in a kind of like fun way. Like it's still like fun and feels like optimistic, even though you are addressing like, I've been the problem, like because of these things.
Well, I think that's why it works because it balances the lyrical gravity where he's not pulling punches. It balances that with like a musical levity. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
And that guitar line, when it gets the harmony on the
when
second
they harmonize
pass,
it, and it feels like classic heavy
and then
metal.
and then this part right here with the like weird filter on the guitar. Is that it's not like a wah. What is that?
I don't know. I don't know if it's
so cool.
Kind of like a flanger or something. Like a slight. I don't know. It's something going on.
That part, the combination of that guitar line and the way Matt sings that line, I talked to absolutely no one, couldn't keep to myself enough, and the things bottled inside have finally begun to create so much pressure that I'll soon blow up. And like, he's got this like, it's almost, I know this sounds really silly because it's a song and I get that he's singing, but he has this sing-song talking quality in that section that feels like some sonic form of bottled joy. Like the part where he says reverberating footsteps sinking up to the beating of my heart.
Pop.
It is.
It's like the pop. It's ABBA, right? It's like
it's
Swedish
pure sunshine
pop music. Like
yes,
it does be like the ABBA thing. Like because like so many of those like Swedish like that's why I feel like so many like Swedish producers do so well in American pop music because so much of it is like taking a simple idea and not being super familiar with the language, but just then focusing on like these phonetics,
the phrasing
that like that are really pleasing to the ear, and he does that really well.
And building off of that, yeah, he does.
Good song. Is it anyone's favorite?
No,
nope.
And then Dave does this really tasty little snare roll for like 2 bars at the very end, where he could have just kept going with the groove.
Yeah,
right.
It would have been fine. Kind of like your example earlier, Kylan. Like, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But he just drops
we
down
all
to a
would have
little snare
accepted
roll.
it, and it still would have been a great song. But
yeah. And that snare roll adds a ton of tension and like texture that you really love. And like every time I hear the song, I wait for it. I'm like, oh, here's the snare roll.
And then, because it makes it hit even harder. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Good song.
Good song.
Crazy.
This is a good album.
Crazy take, but
Hot take.
good song.
Hot take. All right, guys.
Hot take. You're putting the hot in hot take, Kylan.
I really am. I'm trying my hardest to maintain consciousness. throughout this. So let's move on to track number 11, Maintain Consciousness.
All right, Kylan, I said I was going to tell y'all why I think you didn't like Let It All Out. It's because that song wasn't your anthem, buddy. This song is your anthem.
Well, okay, not every song that says ADD is my anthem.
No, but this one is. This one is. My friend... We found it. It's taken, how many volumes have we done? 111?
Yeah, 111.
Yeah. We found it.
We're here. For a song to perfectly encapsulate how I live my life. This, to me, it feels the most two lefts. Like, this song,
yes, totally,
for sure,
could have been on two lefts.
Absolutely.
But it's still like a progression. But so I thought it was interesting, right? Because, like, the first half of this album is like they very easily, I feel like, could have made the wrong decision of swapping sides A and B essentially, because like if they got signed, off of like Anatomy of Tongue in Cheek and Two Lefts, like so many of these songs on the later half of the record feel more in line with that, like probably came directly after that. And they could have it's almost to me like Fall Out Boy did something similar around the same time. Like they got signed to Island after Take This to Your Grave, because they got signed because of like these major labels were realizing that all of these like emo pop punk bands were doing this and they could maybe sell that. Then they did From Under the Cork Tree, which is like way more ambitious and different than I think probably what anyone anticipated. And I think Relient K did something similar here, but then they kept on the back half of the record, I think like for longtime fans, like, hey, if you stuck with us through this like evolution of the band, right? Like
here's the throwback.
We're something different, but like, hey, we can still do the fun, super fast pop punk.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of moments like that in a lot of bands' discographies where it's like a tiny, like a track 11 moment of like, here's what our second album sounded like. Remember that?
Right.
And I like that I like your interpretation of that as a love letter to the OG fans. I like that a lot. Yeah. And this feels a lot like that. You're right.
This one and the next track does as well, I think. I think you both.
Yeah.
Totally.
Narratively, I think this one and The Only Thing Worse Than Beating a Dead Horse are like the two for me that stick out as far as like, because all the other songs feel very much of Matt singing like about himself. It's very very me, whereas those two songs are kind of like we and just kind of a more outward focus of like people in general. Yeah, collective we kind of thing. So it's like, it does kind of feel like it takes it out of like an introspective look at that we've been in doing the whole record a little bit, but yeah, it's fun. So I still like it, but I do think it maybe falls outside of that a little bit.
Yeah, but I kind of like that as a way of maybe balancing the navel-gazy quality that that an album could have if it's too like inward facing. Right. Not to say this would feel that way. Like it very well could have been an album with two songs that are, instead of outward facing, like you're saying, Josh, like more inward focusing stuff, and it would have felt fine. So I'm not like just jumping to that conclusion, but I could see the thinking from like Matt and the group, like trying to approach this record from a place of like, oh, okay, let's throw some we in there and some outward facing stuff to like balance out the inner work of it all.
Yeah. And I think it's honestly a good bridge from the last record.
Yes. Oh my God, yeah, I think very so. Much, and like it's still that slap happy, like funny style that Josh, you and I like mentioned, like really wanting Relient K to still have.
There's still the Vibra slap happy on this one.
Ooh, nice one.
Is that a Vibra slap?
I think
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
that was in my notes.
Nice
you
one.
Gotta love a Vibra slap.
But it also touches on like a real issue, and in a way that's funny, that then again, like we've said on multiple songs, maybe hits harder or hits different in 2024. Because, like, I don't know. Like, I know, like, ADD, ADHD have been, part of the cultural conversation for a while. But, like, now it's everywhere. And there's people diagnosing themselves, and you can get medicine for it through, like, mail-in services and all that nonsense. And, like, for the millennial, I feel like this song hits different. Anybody dealing with ADD day in and day out as a kid, and then in your, like, teen years, and then also now as an adult, to have to still, like, reckon with that. And this song is, like, Matt trying to, like, work it out either for himself or for others, bandmates, other friends, artists, like, whoever. Because, I mean, we know the Venn diagram of, like, artist and ADHD, right? I think it was, like, in a way, even though it's, like you said, Josh, the kind of we and the outward facing, like, I think it's also, like, there's a personal level to it. And even though it's silly, it's also, like, I feel like there's some real truth inside there. Like, we're going to try to keep our eyes open for just one more day. We're going to keep on hoping that we stumble on our way, like not seeking it out, but like accidentally stumble onto it. And trying to stay awake, trying to stay focused, trying to not lose interest in things. And even the song, the structure of the song emulates that. Like the fact that it just breaks, it goes into the like the 80s metal,
like shreddy prog, like an 80s or like a southern metal damn it riff. Like
yeah. And over that he sings losing interest. And then there's one of my favorite parts of the song is when there's that weird like that happens in the back of the pre-chorus. He's like, it's the same old me. And then somebody's like, yeah. Which also feels like something you would do if you're like,
for sure.
I don't know. Yep. Maybe you took a lot of Ritalin and you're in the studio and it's 3 a.m.
You're feeling it,
Or I didn't take my Ritalin is the thing.
Or
it's
you
different for
take
people
your
that
Ritalin,
actually have ADHD. I didn't take my Ritalin.
And then there's a gong at the end, of course, like you do. You end the song that way.
Like one does, of course. Yeah.
These are all creative choices that I would make. I fully understand.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
It's your anthem, buddy.
It really is. This week, the trend is I'm about to pass out. So let's move on to track number 12. This week, the trend.
This week the trend is to not wake up till 3 p.m. I picked a few conscious hours that I chose to spend and slept away the rest of them. And this week the trend was to crash and burn and then we turn again. To practice the life that I pretend provides enough to get me through the
I mean, I love this guitar riff.
Dude,
great job, Hoops.
It's
great
the best.
job.
This also, like I said, this feels like the most like expected continuation from the last record.
Yep.
Yeah.
It feels like the big budget version.
And I think that's why it's my favorite song.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, because it does kind of feel forward motion-y, I guess, like with the lyrics.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Also, is there some weird time signature stuff in this?
Yes, there is.
Is it? It's like it's in the verses. I can't remember exactly where it is, but
yep, it's when he says this minute, this hour, this day, this week, the trend. And for one thing, I just love that he slams those sections into each other, and like there's not a transition. It's just like immediately moving on in the song, which does also like fit the theme of like how quick the media moves, and especially now. And that's the other funny thing. This album was so prescient in a lot of ways.
I know.
This week the trend. How about this TikTok 9 seconds the trend? But Matt knew, I think, where things were headed because it was already going that way when this came out. The internet was a crazy Wild West of a place. But yeah, there's a half bar that hits. To your point, Kylan, when he says this minute, this hour, this day, they cut it in half instead of 4, they do 2, and then it jumps into a bar of 4. But yeah, the whole song is just, it's a vibe, dude. Like you said, Josh, the guitar line is killer. Like, so again, it's just like pure sunshine in a bottle. I don't know, it feels like, oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. It's like windows down, cruising down the highway with your buds on a road trip in the summer.
Yeah.
That's what this song makes me feel like.
Although this is, I think, the only song that I would drive down the road with the windows down with my friends screaming along that also talks about getting mugged at knife point.
Yep.
No, but that's part of why I like the song.
Point.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants to get cut enough to wake him up.
Right.
I love that line. That's one of my favorite lines because it's a little more gritty and it's a little more like, oh, whoa, you want to, what? What did you just say? Like, it kind of wakes you up a little bit as a listener because, like, he's talking about Sunny with the high of 75 and, like, if I can maintain consciousness. And then he is like, I want to get mugged at knife point, guys. And it's like, whoa, Matt, wait, what?
That's what I really need
right sure?
now. Yeah.
But then he qualifies it.
Right.
And points it back to how, like, I don't know, man, sometimes your life can fly by and you can, like, lose yourself, and a moment or a season even of life can go by like that in a snap and leave you looking back, wishing you had a do-over, wishing you could, like, cherish your time a little more. And again, in my 30s, I gotta say it, like, that's a real tough thing to reconcile, man. It's just a good, it's a Baja Blast of a song.
Man, go for one of those. Yeah. I did think it was interesting. I love, like you were talking about, how they slammed that second verse into at the end of the chorus. But I find it was interesting because then they, after that verse, which I'm calling a verse, I'm calling the whole thing part of a verse because they do that, like, stanza and then they pause for the instrumental break like you would normally have coming out of the chorus, and then they do the second half of the verse, or if you want to call it like a third or a fourth verse kind of thing. So I thought that was like an interesting thing because the guitar does come back a little bit later. Because, like, obviously I want to hear more of that guitar riff because it's so good. But yeah, I never was like, oh, that's weird that you stop in the middle of the second verse to do the intro riff again, and then you keep going with the second verse.
It's also weird.
So
makes sense why it's a TJ favorite.
Oh yeah, the kind of weird asymmetrical,
because like on the surface, everything about this is like pretty typical pop punk. But if you but it's not. It's all a little
once
left
you start
of center.
to break it down. There's all kinds of weird quirks in there, and
and I love how the trends start from something just like, oh, we're just sleeping in late, into just like crazy things, it just gets just descends into like, oh, this is serious.
I want to backstab all my friends.
Crash
well,
and
and
burn
I
and
feel like
return
he's
again.
It's like I almost feel like it's him starting to turn like a more critical eye at the world that he's a part of, like the music industry. You know, he's talking about the internet, he's talking about pop culture, he's talking about the world of music, and I think, you know, he's trying to be playful, but he's also trying to make change by singing about it, I guess, which I appreciate.
Well, guys, I am contemplating my life after dying of heat exhaussion.
And taxes.
It's still so hot.
Texas.
Texas.
In Texas.
Because I'm in Canton, Texas. Well,
did you find the portal yet?
That transition was a failure, too. Track number 13, Life After Death in Texas, failure 2.
Hey, taxi, take me straight to the heart of it. The nucleus of politics, where somebody started it. 'Cause they taxed me with a scalpel piece by piece. They cut me deep and bled me dry, till there was nothing left to bleed. And this is
Josh's
back to Relient K as fake heavy.
Yes, very much so. They're bringing back David Bunton accordingly so as well.
Yep.
Some cool syncopation.
And again, this one, uses that kind of like syncopated song structure and the juxtaposition of like the straight 4/4, like playing with rhythm as a way to create some dynamic range, which is important this deep into a record.
Yes.
Right.
Very much so.
This, to me, feels like it reminds me a lot of that Engine of a Million Plots era 5-iron.
Oh,
yes.
Like music,
a little angrier.
You're not wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, like it feels like kind of pseudo-political. Like they tax me with a scalpel, but then mixed with like the music, it's like a little
Piece by
heavier
piece.
and yeah.
Totally.
Just add some horns in here.
Yeah, we're political now.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Wow, that's good.
That's a great assessment.
Hey, I'm nothing if not a 5-iron frenzy.
Yes, that you are. You coined it. I think this is Dave Douglas again in the verses. I'm assuming so.
I think so too.
It's what I've always similar thought, to anyway. ISO Hate Consequences, which that's who I've always attributed it to. Yeah,
me too. And even what I wrote on this one was even after being able to unpack and sort of pick apart the elements and strategies that they use, like the time changes and the kind of like rise and fall of it all, I still love it. Like I still kind of believe the magic. It doesn't kill it for me. I don't know why. Like it's hard to explain, but it's like even I don't know. A lot of times, like when I am able to break down something in a song, it can kind of be like it removes the mystery, and I've like talked about how the mystery is like a big part of me. That happens
sometimes when I like learn a song on guitar. I'm like, oh, now that I learned it, it doesn't feel as cool or as mysterious.
Yes, exactly. So, but in this case, like I can learn all their tricks and still be like pretty mystified or impressed at least, even if I understand.
Yeah.
I can be like, oh, how did you come up with it still? Like I understand all of these components, but I would have pieced them together in just the way you did, you know? It just still...
That's kind of how I feel about like learning about special effects in horror movies or like camera techniques or like directing techniques in a movie. Sometimes, it will just be like, oh, yeah, I mean, that's just like a cheap trick. But then still, every time I see oh my gosh, what is it called?
A pratfall.
It's called like a Texas switch.
Where it's in the same shot and they switch actors.
Yeah, like where someone is like running through a scene and then they will like duck behind like a barrel or something.
Yeah,
and then the shot keeps going and it's a Texas swap, and then they swap with a stuntman. Still, every time I see that, I'm like, how'd you think to do that and like frame it like
cool
this and make it like that's so cool. Like it does add to my enjoyment of it for certain things.
Yeah, and it still
there you go.
works.
I had to get my movie reference in at some point.
Yes, you did it right before the end.
There it was,
right before the end. Speaking of right before the end, I think it's an important thing of like setting up the last song being like the penultimate song. But at this point, I was feeling a little bit like, okay, we can get ready to wrap things up because this song is like maybe it goes on a little too long. But yeah.
I have a pushback. I like that you had a little pushback on something earlier, Kylan, and I've also got something. It's very small. It's very silly. But my problem with this, with one thing in this song, is I don't know that it actually, and I would love to hear if y'all agree or disagree. I don't know if it actually helps to scream, "You already forgave me," because guys, nothing feels more like surrender, acceptance, forgiveness, wholeness, and home than screaming about forgiveness. Am I right, guys?
Well. This also really spoke to me as a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Because that's a very
me too.
Teenage sentiment.
Of course. Yeah, it totally is. As a 36-year-old, I was like,
okay. All right, children.
That's fun, y'all. You decided to scream about forgiveness. It's just very funny. So it kind of took me out because I think the line where it's at 158, if you want to run it back, Kylan, we don't have to, but it's like I like what's happening in every other part of the song. Matt's vocal performance is great. The song writing is great. The arrangement, production is all awesome. Dave's killing it on drums, and he does those stops, those duh, 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 duh. It could have been just as effective to have like the heavy, like syncopated drum stop. I don't think we needed the drawn out, "You already forgave me." I didn't need it.
Right.
So this is my one little critique. That's it. That's all I got.
All right, guys, you heard it here first. TJ hates this album, and
that's how it's all coming undone.
That's what
from
I said.
This one part.
I don't know. That's the TikTok.
It could flop. We haven't got to the end yet.
Your opinion of this album is completely going down because of that one part, TJ.
It might. You don't
Much
know.
like me, After all of
when
this,
you go
sitting
melting into a puddle,
sweating my ass off.
You're going down.
Don't worry though, guys. I've still got plenty of water left, so I think I'll make it a little
pack,
little longer. Here we go. It comes down to this, the last track, "When I Go Down."
When I go down, I go down hard, and I take everything I've learned and teach myself some disregard. When I go down, it hurts to hit the bottom.
Josh?
Oh, is this the last track already?
Yeah. Do you have something to say?
Somehow we've arrived.
Well, this is my favorite song then.
Oh, no shit.
Yep, there it is.
Oh, there's not anything. I thought it was the next song. Oh, okay. No, I guess it has to be this
It
song.
was the pre-gap.
It'd be really funny if we got all the way through it and you were like, I forgot, guys. I don't know what my favorite is.
I never came up
I
with
didn't
one.
pick
Yeah.
such a Kylan move. Yeah. No,
It
that's
would.
a TJ move. Oh, I don't have a favorite song. Maybe you guys can help me pick a favorite song. It's
And I'll pick the one that you guys don't pick.
yeah. No, the one Kylan picks.
yeah.
Like, no, that's the worst song on the record.
Just to twist the knife a little bit.
Yeah.
No, why is this
Josh,
one your
talk to
favorite?
us. Yeah, talk to us.
I did go in this. I mean, this was the one I expected it to be, but I did go in open to having any other song be my favorite as it came to me. But
Right.
this is my favorite song. In high school, I might have even said this was my favorite Relient K song of all of them.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
I remember like in high school having a moment where I kind of like discovered this song, and it was my favorite for a long, long time. And it helped. I of course could learn the whole thing on acoustic, and I did, which was really fun because I could play along to the whole thing. It's fun. The verses are in E, and the rest of the song is in D. So it has like a weird key change, and it keeps jumping back and forth between them. But yeah, I listened to it again this week, and I was singing along to literally the whole thing in my car, and it still hit. I love long songs. You've got that bridge that has like harmonics with sleigh bells and Thiessen singing ba ba ba. Like it's.
Yes,
I love
another
journey
Beach Boys
of the
moment.
song. It is another Beach Boys moment. But this whole song is a journey, and I love it, especially for a last song.
Yeah, and Josh, we have a return of that theme of the heavy heart and being made light. That makes a return in this as like a closing sort of sentiment to kind of put a bow on it, if you will. So I like that it's your favorite.
Take. This is a better version of Deathbed.
Absolutely.
That's an actually controversial take.
Absolutely, it is.
That's the fun thing. Guys,
so
you see what
glad
I
you
did
said
there?
it.
I actually had a controversial take.
It is a controversial
You did because
take.
I actually disagree.
Most people will.
Yeah.
Most Relient K fans will. But I know Josh is on my side with this.
Deathbed is overrated, and this song is not.
I'll say this. I haven't heard Deathbed in a long time, but I did listen to Deathbed more recently than I had listened to this song. And even listening back to this song, my recollection of Deathbed makes me think, I still think it's better. But we'll see when we get there.
I guarantee you like Josh and I, we know we're in the minority there.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
it was
interesting
really
because
fun to
like,
actually
I'm a
give a
Tulips
controversial
guy.
take by saying controversial take.
Yeah, and I love that
You
we're
actually
not
did.
all like that. I'm on your side, but I'm glad that TJ isn't. I love that we have
I
this
know.
internal conflict.
But that's the thing is this song is incredible. Like I
is.
love this song. And so it's not.
I really like
it's
it.
Not
You
even,
guys know how I feel about long songs.
Yeah.
okay
But
if it's the
I
end.
do give a lot more wiggle room when it's the last song,
If it's
right?
the
Like you
actual
can be a
closing
little
track. Yeah.
more indulgent.
No, it's a good closer. It kind of buttons things up really nicely. And I honestly was starting to feel a little Relient K fatigue at the beginning of this track when I was listening through to it more recently. But then when the drums kick in on
When it
verse
all
2,
kicks
I'm
in,
back
you're
in.
just like, oh,
I'm
yeah,
back
I'm
in.
here
You get
for
this
it.
like,
big
no,
Exactly.
chords coming
That happened to
on,
me
like,
every
Eric,
time
yep.
too. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, all right, I get it, I'm done. And it's like, oh wait, no.
Oh,
It's
no,
very
wait.
good.
Freaking
Yeah.
Dave Douglas
Yeah.
Yeah.
swooping in. Yep.
Yeah. And those jingle bells are great, Josh.
Oh yeah,
you're right. That like bop jingle bell outro thing, so good. Tasty.
So
we did it. We did it. I have yet to die in this room.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I made it just for y'all. Stick around
thanks,
if
buddy.
you like.
It's your commitment to
Nonsense
the
like
show,
this,
Kylan.
you can watch a live stream of me dying in real time on the Patreon at patreon.com/churchjamsnow podcast.
I hope you actually do. Like after we finish recording, you're just gonna fall out of your chair.
I'm just gonna start live streaming on the Patreon directly after this. Everyone on our Patreon will get an email. Watch me die in real time. Okay, guys, this was a big record. This has been big, like sort of internally. This is big, obviously, in the world of music in which we cover.
Yeah, huge.
So I have a question for y'all. Do you think our discussion tonight did this album justice?
I would say so.
That's a loaded question.
I love the confidence.
There's always more to talk about, I'm sure. But
well, yeah,
I
was going to say, like, agree, Josh. I think we had good takes and good points, and I also would love to hear more thoughts
for sure
out there.
I think we did a good job, but who knows? I always think we do a good job. That's why we do this, right?
Yep.
You know what? This is totally like not planned or prepared, but I will give a quick little plug to friends of the show, Sadie Hawkins Pod. If you listen to this show and you want more Relient K content and you haven't listened to them, they go song by song. They do a full deep episode per song over their whole discography. So I'm pretty sure they've covered all of this album at this point. Yeah. So
and most of Relient K's songs at this point.
Exactly.
Discography.
Yeah, I think they're like starting to wind down, right? Like they're starting to.
I think they're pretty close to wrapping it up. Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, how do we feel about it? Let's give our final flop or bop verdicts and our justifications.
Go in order of who has listened to the album the last. So me, TJ, Kylan.
Okay.
If you listened most recently to...
Cool, I'm tracking.
The longest, yeah. So, I mean, it's like I would have always said this is probably the best, objectively the best Relient K record. I will say, digging into it, I kind of felt it more on, like it was more like, nostalgia, and it was less of being like, I'm like, this is hitting me as hard like right now, instead of just being like, it's kind of like the opposite of it's what I was worried was going to happen on Chasing Safety kind of thing. So,
right.
But then I ended up having the better listen for Chasing Safety when we recorded the episode. So I'm like, I could have just been not feeling it this time around, but then maybe next time I listen to it, I will feel that. But even with all of that, it's still like, I still have to give it a pop. It's a huge record that made a big impact on me. And I still think I don't have any like big complaints about it. Like there's nothing that I could pick apart and be like, yeah, this doesn't hold up. If anything, I think we all discussed and discovered that like some of the songs maybe even hold up more so now that we've aged, which is something that you can't say with a lot of albums. So that's really cool, especially for something that connects with us as teenagers to be like, 20 years later, this hits just as hard.
I think it passed our internal litmus test of, was our discussion better than the question by Emery?
Yes. Even though we had like hardly any complaints on this, because normally that's fun because we can get some pushback. But right when we're all but like,
it's hard. Great. Like I always worry about that when we all sort of agree and know we're gonna kind of agree to a certain extent on where an album lands. Yeah, I always get a little bit nervous about that. But
no. So I think it was good. But I also give it a big bop.
So I definitely went into this thinking, I'll probably like have an okay time digging back into this album a little deeper. But I was a little, like I thought I'd kind of maybe not a squeak bop, but like not a hardy bop, because like I told y'all earlier, as a teenager listening to this, I was like, they've lost their like scrappy garage punk rock sensibilities. They've gone pop. Right. I remember having like a little bit of a, like I shrunk back a little bit from this record as a kid. I was a little like not as into it as Two Lefts. And so I was convinced that I would feel the same way. However, I connected a lot more with this record than I ever thought I would. I spent most of this episode talking about that, but for that reason, and y'all know that like if it hits on the heart level for me, and like if the themes and the lyrics are strong, and if the other elements of the album are also solid, then that's gonna really deliver like on a pretty profound level. And it really did, you guys. Like it did not end up being a squeak bop. Like this is a pretty hearty, solid bop from me. And not that was a surprise. I think like, after we got into the conversation, but I was judging it a little bit from a more critical lens based on how much I loved Two Lefts and how kind of iconic and quintessential Relient K that album feels to me. And so I was a little surprised at how much this resonated and how much I was able to really dig into the tedium and like the little nuances of production and arrangement that shone through across this album. And I don't think it's as pop as I felt it was. Like I really, like we said, those punk elements, you mentioned at the top, Kylan, that these punk elements that Relient K utilizes, they're there. They're just sort of so tight and polished and dialed, and also they're
but it also doesn't feel
the punk
artificial.
elements are the bones.
Like it just
like
it doesn't feel like studio grown, right? Like it feels like they just got so good at that.
They're just legitimately great musicians that came from a punk tradition, and they learned how to like glom other elements onto those bones and like dress them up a little bit. So that's why I think as a kid I was like, oh, they went pop. But now as an adult, I'm like, no, they just got better. And this album slaps.
For sure.
It's a bop, man.
For sure. Love that.
So what about you, Kai Dog?
Well,
Have you melted yet?
I think I spoiled. I'm about to. I think I spoiled how I feel about it at the very beginning of the episode.
You sure did, buddy.
But okay, I had a moment this week. So I've listened to this album a lot of times.
You've been waiting for it. So I mean,
it was the one I was waiting for.
A couple spins. Yep.
Yeah. But I had a moment yesterday. I was driving to pick up pull-ups from Walmart in Canton, Texas, and I was listening to this at like full blast. And I had just recently, so at the time of recording, our Patreon episode on bands that jumped the shark had just come out this week. And I was having text conversations with a few people that are on our Patreon that listen to it. So I re-listened to that episode, and I was like, I was in this headspace specifically thinking about this. We talked about in that episode, like all three of us brought up Relient K, how like pretty early on we all had like a real connection to Relient K, and then at various points we all kind of like dropped off. And like listening to this album, I thought it was really funny being in that headspace, thinking about like 8th grade me. Relient K was my favorite band, like of all time. And then I pretty quickly moved on to like other bands. And then listening to this album on repeat and driving to pick up pull-ups, I was like, fuck, is Relient K my favorite band?
Full circle.
It felt like a real like full circle. Like it felt similarly to like how I like started to go to church again. Like I felt like something in my spirit, like something in my life has just changed where I feel like more open.
Reawakening.
And this album, this album resonated with me so much because there was that real like nostalgic feeling, but I was able to look at it from a completely different place, right? Like I could recognize who I was when I first was obsessed with this album.
Kylan, if I may speak to you in your language.
Please.
This is like when you're a kid and you don't know a lot of different directors. You're like, I love Steven Spielberg. he did Jurassic Park, he did all these,
Right.
and then you get like, you start learning about directors, and you're like, yeah, what I like these guys, whatever, and then you get older, and you're like, man, is Steven Spielberg like the best? Like, I don't know.
Yes,
like,
exactly. Yes, exactly. Which that's so funny because I just recently started listening to a Steven Spielberg podcast called The Spiel, and so that's fresh on my mind too.
That's a great name.
No, I know.
Wow.
It's so good. Yeah, no, he's the greatest that ever lived. And then like he did all these movies that like really connect with you as a child. And then you get through like your pretentious like, he just makes like populist like popcorn movies. And then you come back as an adult and you're like, oh no, he's just literally the greatest living director. And I felt a lot of that. I don't know if that's gonna like stay. It probably won't, but at least for this week, Relient K is my favorite band of all time. And I just live in the moment,
TikTok
guys.
The TikTok caption is, podcaster says Relient K is the Spielberg of bands.
Right, for sure.
That'll get some clicks.
Yeah, I loved this. It was so, everything about this time. And once again, like I said, it's 50 minutes. It doesn't feel like it to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is a high compliment from you. That your listening experience doesn't feel like a slog is the high compliment.
It's probably longer than the Momentum record, and that record probably felt 3 times longer than this record.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, we've listened to albums that are like 10, 15 minutes shorter than this that felt 4 times as long. Yeah. No, this was so good. It's the biggest of bops I can give it.
Wow.
Call me Chantilly Lace, because this is a big bopper. I'm surprised I haven't made...
Yeah, that's a first for you.
Yeah, I can't believe that this is the first time that's come up.
Guess what? It's not the last.
Man.
Okay.
I know.
If you enjoy this, we do have more nonsense like it at our Patreon at patreon.com/churchjamesnowpodcast. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. Let us know how you feel about this record and how you feel about it turning 20 years old.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for our one listener, Dawson, to tell us he first heard this when he was, when he turned 15 in 2020 or whatever.
Because this record is older than him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Dawson.
Yeah. From all of us here at Church James Now, may all your favorite bands stay together, and peace out, Mon Frères.
This week the trend is to listen to all of our episodes.